Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Everybody, I am back, and thank you so much for everything you do for Spaced Out Radio. Dick Larson will be our guest tonight. Maitreya, ET Contact. Yeah, we're going to talk about having some of them aliens tonight, and I am pumped up to be back with all of you. Thank you so much for the love this past week. I'll get into that here in just a few minutes. If you see my arm moving, it's because I'm scratching from the damn mosquitoes around here. Oh, they love me. Let's say hello to everyone in the chat room so far. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. And B taking home the silver with Robert Lamoth with a nice bronze medal tonight. Hi, Roy Boy. Human Carl, I have not forgotten about you. I just kind of got caught up with things, man. So I should be back with sending you a little package here very, very soon, my man. Raynard the Fox, welcome to SOR Chat. Les Paul Holland and Lisa C., good to see you. President Zaddy, how are you, my man? Evan Walters, what's happening? Allison Singh, Chris 716, Ozzy Sue, thanks for coming out. Lee the Bee is back. Lee the Bee will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Rock and roll it out. Here's Ozzy Sue, Guy Calgary, Forrest Louie, how are you, my man? Good to see you as we continue on with our roll call. There's number 26 in your program, starting at center ice from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Brown Dwarf, great interview yesterday with Jessica, my man. Fantastic interview. We got to get you on this show, too. All right. Laura Lobbs, nice to see you. Hi, Penny Van. And who else is here? Hi, Paramarv. Ross Lambda. What's happening? Ross will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Continuing on, Kathy Evans, Jen A, B. More Dan. How y'all doing? I've missed you guys. Okay, continuing on with our roll call. Let's say hello to Millennium, my man. Good to see you. Sasquatch Guy, welcome to SOR Chat. And Jessica Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Hi, Be Kind, Chillgasm, Scrub-a-Dub-Dub. Good to see you all. Crystal J, thank you for joining us. Hey, Philip Bacca, how are you? And Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Simon, good to see you. Cat Chaser, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so, so much. Gizmo and Obi Flett, how you doing? Hey, how's the sunburns, Obi? Give me an update if you don't mind. Roger Murray, how are you, man? And Forrest Louie with a great Super Chat. Thank you, my friend. Very much appreciate the love, Louie, each and every night, seriously. Okay, continuing on here, Christine Lynn, thank you for joining us. Hi, Sensational Sherry. Super Crazy, Mike Bothwell, how are you? Bigfoot Rob, Aunt Edna, thank you for joining us. One of my favorite veterans who listens, Dennis Zuniga, thank you for your service, my man. Pixie Lara, thank you for joining us. Vash the Impaler, Izzy Stradlin Beth, Skip to Maloo, how are you? And who else do we have here? Let's take a look here. Forrest Louie again, thank you for the hug, man. Very much appreciate the love, Louie. Let's get the radio side started so that way we can get Bill WD-40 into the chat room because, you know, he needs to lube us up for tonight's show. Very much needs to lube us up. Lily Pond and Simon or silent listen, thank you for joining us as we continue on with the roll call. Flash forward, good to see you, my man. Juliana, thank you for coming on in. Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. Yes, you do, my man. And who else do we got in our chat room so far? Bones, how are you? Good to see you. And man, it feels good to be home. Feels so good to be home. All right, continuing on here. Thank you, Flash Forward, for that awesome super chat. Very much appreciate the love, my man. Thank you. Who else do we got here? We got Catherine Jones. Mwah! I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a great night. I got a great email from Charlie. I did email him back. I hope he got it. All right, sweet Donna Spencer. Mennonite Abe, thank you for the love, my man, and very much appreciate it. We got 18 seconds. Let's see if we could get it all in here. And Obi, thank you for the love. And I'm going to need you guys to do me all a favor here. Tim Othman, how are you? Emmy Tong, good to see you. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight. Dick Larson is here. He's going to be talking Maitreya and alien contact. Then in hour number 3, we go to a spooky story from Steve Stockton from the YouTube channel, Among the Missing. Tim Senor returns with the UFO report. Now, before we get to our guest, I just got a few things that I want to say, and I might get a little bit emotional here, so I apologize if I do. But last Wednesday, or pardon me, a week ago Sunday, I got the call from my father that said that my mom wasn't doing very well. And I asked him, I said, Dad, do you want me to come home? And after some hemming and hawing, because my dad's a very stoic, brave man, he kind of broke down and he said, son, I think you should come home. So I packed up my bag on Sunday evening and I drove 4.5 hours to my parents' house in Abbotsford, British Columbia. And the next day I went and saw my mom. And what we had learned was on Saturday, my mother, who had been going through kidney dialysis, her body started giving out and her dialysis was no longer working. And so we would figure it out on Tuesday when she went for dialysis again in order to see if it would take. And unfortunately, it didn't take. And so on Tuesday of last week, everybody in our family showed up because we were told that it was a matter of time, a matter of hours to days, that mom's body would just say that that was enough. And on the Tuesday, we had some very, very cool things happen. My son showed up and my mother lit up. She really wanted to see him. She had a lot of kisses for him and hugs. My mother could barely talk, so she was kind of mumbling things. But when my son showed up, she could say his name. But the real exciting part for me was at around 4:30 there was a couple instances. uh, on the Tuesday afternoon about 4:30, my daughter showed up with my grandson. My mother hadn't met her great grandson yet, and the way my mother's face lit up when she saw my grandson for the first time, it brought a tear to my eye and a giant smile to my face. And I was able to capture that moment with some pictures, and it was phenomenal. One thing spiritually happened. Earlier before my daughter arrived, my sisters and I caught my mother talking. And my one sister, Shannon, said, "Mom, who are you talking to?" And my mom said, "I'm talking to Bryce." Bryce was my nephew who died of a fentanyl overdose in 2018. Now, I know you probably know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to tell the story anyways. So, my sister, Shannon, that was her son, her only child. And she asked, "Mom, is Bryce here?" And my mom said, "Yes, yes, he is." It was an absolute beautiful moment because when I was driving down to the coast on Sunday, my nephew had come to me and I had stated, "Hey, buddy, grandma's not doing very good. I think this is it." And he kind of gave me, my nephew is a confident kid. And he kind of gave me this little attitude when he talked to me. He says, "Don't worry about it, Uncle. I got this. I'm with her. I got this." So to have my mother confirm what I had spoken to him a couple days previous was pretty awesome. But the more awesome part of it all was the next day. My mother died on Wednesday last week at 9:56 a.m. And it was funny. She waited for my dad to leave because my dad had to go take care of something with my grandmother. And she waited for my dad to leave, and then I happened to be on my way en route, but decided once again to go to Tim Hortons and grab an ice cap, only to be screwed around in the drive-through because their Interact happened to be down. I never carry cash. I'm always a debit card kind of guy. And I got to the window and they're like, "Sorry, our machine is down and you got to pay cash." So I had to reverse out of there and then race to another Tim Hortons to grab a drink. And when I pulled into the hospice where my mother was, as soon as I hit park, my phone rang. It was my sister saying my mother was gone. And the cool part about it is this: my nephew, my deceased nephew, was there. And my sister never got to say goodbye to him. And what was really cool about that was that my sister Shannon was the one holding my mom's hand when my mom went home. And to know that her son on the other side, my nephew on the other side, was there to welcome grandma home, to me, it was one of the most beautiful moments I could have asked for. It, I think, solved a lot of pain that had been in our family, that my sister got that type of closure. And I talked to her about it, and she really didn't notice it until I had brought it up. And it brought healing. It brought a lot of healing. I'm proud to say that I got something that a lot of people don't get when they go through a family member passing or a friend passing. My final words to my mom were, "I love you." Not a lot of people get that opportunity. And the last moment that I remember of my mother on the Tuesday was her absolutely doting and kissing her great grandson, my grandson, and telling him how much she loved him. It was an amazing moment. I got so much out of that selfishly, I'm very emotional, but in reality, whether I'm a believer in God. So I will state that right now, that God gave me a good gift. God gave me an incredible gift. My mother, just so you know, she survived breast cancer twice, colon cancer once. She was one tough bird, man. We used to call her the cat lady, thinking that she had 9 lives. Doctors couldn't believe how many times that she had looked death in the eye and won. So when we had to say goodbye to my mom, it was truly, truly almost like a sigh of relief that mother was no longer in pain, no longer suffering, and back home where she belongs. I want to say a big thank you to Marquise Williams and my Spaced Out Radio team who took over on the YouTube side to provide programming for our audience. I know that our podcast side and our radio side didn't get that, but soon we're going to make some changes there. I want to say a big thank you to our radio stations, to Jody and Praveen at Saga 960 with your phone calls, the love, the emails I got from Saga 960 staff, making sure that I was okay, telling me to take the time that I needed. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you to Chuck Contreras from KZFX in Ridgecrest, California, and Len Novak from our 2 radio stations in Apache Junction, Arizona, for the love. Charlie in Utah, in Vernal, Utah, for X94. Thank you for understanding and the love that you guys sent. And to our station in Bellingham, Washington, thank you so much for your understanding as well. I usually am somebody who doesn't like missing work. And the fact that I had to do this, I realize everybody's going to be okay with it. But thank you for your understanding. Thank you for your support and the love and the prayers. One thing I want everybody to know who responded on our social media, I let my father read every single comment that you left. And it really warmed my dad's heart to know that, all of you out there who sent your love, your heartfelt prayers, and your support for my mother, a lady that you didn't know, but because you care about me, because you care about this radio show, that you sent the love, that it spread right through my family. And I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for being amazing, for being awesome, and for sharing your love with my family. It's going to be hard not being around my mom. Another kind of kick to the teeth this week. On Saturday, I had to put my 2 dogs down. So Doug and Shadow, Douglas Fir Stevenson and Shadow Carpenter. We had to say goodbye to them on the weekends. They were both not very healthy. So it's been a very tough week. I miss my dogs, miss my mom more. But I know that my own faith, my own spirituality, and with the support of each and every one of you, we're going to get through this all together and be just as amazing on the other side. With that, I say we just get to it, shall we? Dick Larson is a retired family addictions therapist with a background in teaching and business, who now addresses the issues of practical spirituality in everyday life. He's been featured on many talk radio shows around the United States and Canada. He's very familiar with practical spirituality, comes from his study and practice of the Ageless Wisdom teachings and his appreciation of the world's religions. Tonight, we're going to get into Maitreya and ET contact. So let's say hello to Dick Larson. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio for the first time, my friend. I appreciate you taking your time.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, very much appreciate you. How did you get involved with all of this? What made you all of a sudden decide that, now that you're retired, that you're going to focus on Maitreya, spiritual healing, spiritual energy, consciousness, and of course, you never go wrong with some aliens, my man.
Well, I didn't. I didn't do it when I was retired. I did it while I was still working. What happened was I've been doing this, talking about Maitreya, the world teacher, and what we can expect a little bit for about 30 years now. And a friend of mine told me there's a guy coming into town in Los Angeles to give a lecture. He's from London, and he's very interesting. He talks about spirituality, and you might want to go and check him out. So I did. Well, that man was Benjamin Creme, spelled Creme. Lived in London. He's passed away now in his 90s, but lived in London and traveled the world for almost 40 years, giving out the information about Maitreya, the world teacher, and the fact that he's due to join us and help us figure out how to straighten things out on this planet anytime now. And so I went to see Benjamin Creme. Well, about 90% of what he said just went right over my head. But the 10% that I was able to kind of grasp got me real interested. So I started buying his books. He's got about 17 books on Amazon.com. I'm not here to sell books, but I joined up with his volunteer group to help tell the world the story that Benjamin Creme was telling the world about Maitreya and about the Ageless Wisdom teachings. The Ageless Wisdom teachings is an ancient philosophy, as old as humanity, and it's been revealed over the eons to humanity when we're ready for the next lesson. The two most recent teachers of the Ageless Wisdom are Alice A. Bailey, who wrote about 20 books in the 1930s and 40s, and of course, Benjamin Creme, who I said has about 17 books available for people to check out. The Ageless Wisdom is not a religion. It's a living philosophy about what our lives are about and suggestions about how to live them, and about the spiritual kingdom and the human kingdom and all the kingdoms on the planet. So it's fascinating stuff. But that's how I got into it. I went to a Benjamin Creme lecture, and then I subscribed to his magazine. He was the chief editor for a monthly magazine called Share, Share International, published out of Europe and in the US as well. And so I subscribed to that as well. And there's no ads. It's just information about Maitreya and about the Masters of Wisdom and about good things happening on the planet, which is really hard to find in the news.
For you, how did it change your life? How did it change your focus in getting into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've never been asked that before, I'm sorry to say. It changed my life in this way. I saw a bigger picture. I was concerned with my family and my community and my neighborhood and my city and my county and my state and my country. I wasn't an international thinker at all. I wasn't a big picture thinker that much. But listening to Benjamin Creme, then I went to, once a year, he would come to the United States. He'd give a lecture in New York. He'd give a lecture in Los Angeles. He'd give a lecture in San Francisco. Then he would hold a retreat, a long weekend retreat in the National Forest up there in San Francisco. And I attended that with about 100 other people for probably about 25, 26 years. And so that was an opportunity to hear him lecture more, to meditate with him, and to talk with him personally during lunch and during breaks and after the lecture and things like that. So I got to know Benjamin Creme pretty well over those years. Fascinating guy, one of the most honest people I've ever talked to, one of the most spiritual people I've ever talked to, but he never talked about his spirituality, never talked about himself. He only talked about the Ageless Wisdom and the masters, the senior members of our spiritual kingdom. It made a difference because I became much more optimistic about life on this planet, not just my life, but life for all of humanity and all the kingdoms below us. I started to get a better picture of the plan, the big plan. Now, we only get little teeny bits of it, but I got more than I had before. And I saw that there's a purpose and a method behind how life turns out on this planet and for each of us individually. It was a huge, huge revelation to me. For example, the law of cause and effect. In the East, they call it karma. The scientists call it the law of action and reaction. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The law of cause and effect has been taught in all the major religions. The Christians know it as you sow, so shall you reap, and so on. I grew up Christian. And the law of cause and effect is one of the major laws that affects how our life turns out, because how we act sets up a ripple effect on others, positive or negative, and we get that back. It bounces back to us. That's the way the world is set up, is that what you do determines what the future is going to look like. For example, and this is exactly how it works. Whenever I'm driving in traffic and I see somebody, I'm on a city street, and I see somebody waiting in a driveway to pull in, I stop and I let them pull in. Sometimes people honk at me for stopping. I don't care. Guess what happens when I'm in a driveway and want to pull out? Somebody always stops. That's the way the law of karma works. You know, if you want people to be kind to you, thoughtful of you, we need to be kind to others and thoughtful of them. You know, and it just works out that way absolutely perfectly. And that was a huge revelation to me, to realize that I'm creating my life from moment to moment to moment by my actions and my words. And it made a big difference. You know, I live a pretty good life now.
Well, that's absolutely perfect. I mean, with 2 minutes to go before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, Dick Larson is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Dick, I mean, the energy that you were kind of passing off to the rest of us regarding your own learning of spirituality and the Maitreya and everything, you know, did this bring you closer to a connection to Source or God or whatever you may follow, or did it make you rethink your entire effort?
Well, it didn't make me rethink everything, because each major religion has basic truths that come out of the Ageless Wisdom teachings. And so they each have a major contribution to make for the people that are interested in that religion. And for people that aren't interested in religion at all, there's a whole spiritual universe out there for us to get to know. And a good way to get to know it is through the Ageless Wisdom teachings. And so for me, what it did was it gave me a more positive outlook. As I said, it gave me an absolute certainty in my heart of hearts that there is a God, and that there are senior members of our spiritual hierarchy called the Masters of Wisdom, the Lords of Compassion, the Custodians of the Ageless Wisdom. There are 63 of them that actually work out God's plan with humanity. They're the ones. We know these people like Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Muhammad, and so on. Joan of Arc is one of the great masters of wisdom now. Mary, that was the mother of Jesus, is one of the great masters. And they are the inspiration for humanity behind the scenes to help God work out the plan. And so we can talk to them.
Right on. Dick, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because when we return on Spaced Out Radio after this break, we're going to get into Maitreya. What is it? What's it all about? I'm telling you, I'm in for a learning lesson tonight. I know you will be too. Well, at least most of you, because you're probably scratching your head saying, what the hell is a Maitreya? Well, we're going to find out. Dick Larson is our guest, and we're going to show how it all ties in to aliens. Who's got aliens out there? I got some aliens. You got some aliens. We're glad to be back on the radio tonight. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great start, Dick. Great start.
Thank you. You too.
I took up a little bit too much time there. I apologize.
Oh, apology accepted. That's all right. It's your show, and that was really important. I really want to thank you for sharing that, and I'm sure your audience feels the same way.
Oh,
You
I'm
know,
surprised.
that was not only heartfelt, but it was inspirational.
Well, you know what? I look at it this way. And I do want to say to the audience one thing. If you're tuning in, I will be gone on Thursday and Friday because I have to go back down to the coast to for my mom's funeral on Friday morning. So Marquise will be filling in for me Thursday, Friday, and then it's back to normal on the following Monday. But the one thing that I will say is I took a lot of deep thinking. Like I thought my mother was going to die 5, 6 years ago, even 10 years ago. Um, and to have her an extra 10 years from the time I saw the angel of death in her eyes back in 2011, to have her another 12 years actually was pretty damn good. And the other thing too was I looked at it. I'm 50 years old. My sisters are 57 and 60. And we are extremely fortunate to still have had a mother and father this late in life. I know a lot of people who lost their mom or their dad already, or maybe, I couldn't imagine what it's like being a young child or a teenager, or even in my 20s, losing a parent during those formidable years. And so I took great, and I still do, I take great solace in the fact that I had 50 years with my mom, and my sisters had my one sister had 60 years with my mom. Not a lot of people get that, and it's that humbled me. Like, I can't sit here and whine and complain, oh, my mommy's gone. And I know everybody would allow me, but there's so many people out there who've lost both parents by the time they're 40, and I just, I'm thankful. I'm sad. Don't get me wrong. I'm very sad, but I'm very thankful and humbled that I got that long, man. I got that long.
Wonderful. I think you have the right attitude, Dave.
Trying.
Well, yeah. I mean, we can either look at the donut or look at the hole in
True.
the middle of it,
Very true.
Yeah, there's an old saying, as you go through life, whatever be your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole.
Isn't that the truth, man?
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, and it's a choice. We have free will, and we can choose how we want to think, how we want to view what happens to us. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we view it. And you're doing that, I think, in a very positive, wonderful way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think if it was 10 years ago, I'd be an absolute wreck.
I know. Makes a difference, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We get wiser.
Yeah. I like to think so.
Whether we want to or not.
Yeah, right? Quickly here, I want to say hello to Super Duke. Super Duke. Who else is with us tonight? Let's see. I'm still catching up in the chat room here, guys. And Thomas, thank you, bud. Appreciate this love and support, my man. And a big thank you to not only Thomas from Disclosure Tonight, but Charles, Christine, Baba, Obi Flat, Mennonite Abe, Flash Forward, Louie ×2, and Cat Chaser for the great super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hi, Brad. How you doing, man? All the world's a stage. Good to see you again. George Hernandez, thanks for coming out. I'm sorry. Simply Coco, you just lost your mommy too. Much love to you, my dear. And thoughts and prayers to you as well. And thank you. for sharing that with us. We'll send all the love and prayers as we can. I'm going to transfer all of mine over to you, if you don't mind. I wouldn't mind doing that. Who else do we have here? Candy R, how you doing? And Grant retired. That's what happened to Grant. Dead serious. Grant retired. Not by choice. It wasn't my call. It was, yeah. Yeah. Pammy Smith, how are you? Blue Pilled World Chat, how are you? Here we go, guys. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate seeing you all out here tuning us in tonight. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Dick Larson is here. He's going to school us tonight on Maitreya. What is Maitreya? I'm going to be honest with you. I looked this up like 6 different times today, and I'm still confused about it. Dick, thank you so much for joining us. What is Maitreya?
You're welcome. And you probably got 6 different answers. There's a lot of poor information on the internet about Maitreya. Maitreya isn't a what, Maitreya is a who. Maitreya is a being, and his personal name is Maitreya. You're Dave, I'm Dick, he's Maitreya. Maitreya is Sanskrit, and in Sanskrit, what it means is the happy one, the one who brings joy. So his personal name is Maitreya. So if you met him on the street, you'd say, hi, Maitreya. He's not the Maitreya, he's just Maitreya. And kind of like Oprah, you don't need to say her last name. You just say Oprah. Hi, Oprah. So Maitreya, yes. Before I do that, one thing I forgot to say at the outset, I'd love to say now, Dave, and that is to your audience. I ask 2 things of your audience, please. And of course, you don't have to do it. The first thing is, please don't believe anything I say. I'm not here to convince you that what I say is true. I'm not here to change how you think, change your belief system, nothing. I'm just here to give out my information, and if 10 or 20% of it makes sense to you, I'll be very, very happy with that. So I ask you to just kind of take my information in and let it sit on your lap like a brick. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to disagree with it, or whatever. I'm just here to give out that information, but I'm not asking you to believe a word of what I say, because that would be blind belief. And I can't recommend blind belief to anybody. The second thing I ask of the audience is, please try to keep an open mind. Now that's challenging because we've all built our belief system up and we're very attached to it. And so I'm just asking you to crack the window open just a little bit and keep an open mind and just kind of let what I say come in. And like I said, just kind of sit on your lap. The Ageless Wisdom teachings is, I said, the most recent teacher of the Ageless Wisdom is Benjamin Creme. His books are available on Amazon. You can go on and read them. I think you'll find some of them fascinating if you're interested in spirituality at all. Maitreya is a member of the spiritual kingdom for planet Earth. This will be interesting. We'll get into this later, but each planet has its own spiritual kingdom. Now, each planet in our solar system. And our spiritual kingdom has 63 senior members. Now, these are called the Masters of Wisdom, or the Lords of Compassion, or the teachers of the Ageless Wisdom. Now, these are people who have gone ahead of us in evolution. They've had hundreds of thousands of lifetimes, just like we're having. They're having hundreds of thousands of lifetimes until they learned all the lessons that planet Earth can teach us. And once they learned all the lessons that planet Earth can teach, they didn't need to come back in a body anymore. They become a permanent consciousness, a permanent spirit, whatever you want to call it, in the universe. And so that consciousness, that brilliance, that love is who these masters are. They can have a body if they want to take a body or not. Some of these masters do not leave and go somewhere in outer space. They are in the mountain regions of the world and the desert regions of the world. That's where their consciousness is. And if they have a body, that's where their body is. That way they're not disturbed by all the noise and all the pollution and all the commotion that you and I have to face every day of our lives on this planet. They can focus. Now, they don't need to sleep. They don't need to eat. They work 24/7. And they work behind the scenes. They don't come forward except every, 98,000 years. This is an unbelievable time to be alive, you guys, because these 63 masters are now, 40 of them, over 40 of them, are now going to take human bodies and walk amongst us and be teaching us. And their leader is Maitreya. Maitreya is the leader of this group of masters for now. The leader changes over the eons. The leader right now is Maitreya. He's called the world teacher because he comes for the whole world. He says, if you're in a religion and it's working for you, great, stay with it. If you're not in a religion, I come for you too. I come for everybody. I come for every age, every sexual preference, every race, everybody. And he comes, we receive one about every 2,000 years, one of these great teachers. Now, 2,000 years ago, we actually got a couple of them. The Buddha came first and he taught the wisdom of God. Then Jesus came and he taught the love of God. Now it's been 2,000 years. It's time for another great teacher to come forward to help humanity with our next big step forward in evolution. And Maitreya comes to teach God's will. Now, that just the fact that he comes to teach it tells us that we're apparently, as a human race, ready to seriously start doing God's will. He comes to teach God's will and the purpose behind that will. So every teacher comes with a new teaching. The old saying is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And he came before he planned to come. He said, you don't see it, but we see it, the masters. We see how advanced you have been over the last couple hundred years. And we see that you're ready to learn more and that you're ready to act on what you learn. That's the key. Act on what you learn. So we're coming to teach. And he says we because he doesn't come alone. He's in a physical body. And his personal name is Maitreya. He came in 1977, Dave. Here's what happened. He was in the Himalayas. That's where he was resting. His consciousness was resting. And he made his own physical body. It took him years to make it. It's never been done before, is my information. Now, don't believe me. I'm just telling you what Benjamin Creme has revealed. See, Benjamin Creme was in touch with one of these masters. He was trained how to receive communication from one of the masters of wisdom. So that's his source for his information. People ask that. How does he know all this stuff? Well, that's how he knows. And he was told by his master, the master of wisdom that dealt with him, that Maitreya made his own body. Took him several years to make it. It's a male body, about 6'3", and he needed to build a body that could hold the love of God and still not zap you to death when he shook your hand, and do all kinds of other things. The masters they're the masters over science. So they can appear and disappear at will. They travel by thought. Maitreya can appear in 27 places at once, and everybody there can shake his hand and they'll think he's as real as he is, and he is. But they're the masters of science, so they're the masters of energy, and they can control energy and appear and disappear. Well, he made his body so it could do all those things. He came down out of the Himalayas into Pakistan to kind of test drive it for a week or so and make sure It could handle all the smog and the noise pollution and everything else and still work right. And convinced that it was, he then got on an airplane and flew to London, fulfilling the prophecy that he would come out of the clouds. Now, when the prophecy was made, they didn't know about airplanes. Now, thousands of people come out of the clouds every day. He landed in London. He's living in the outskirts of London, in the Asian community of London, as an ordinary man. A few people around him know who he is, but they're keeping it quiet because he needs to announce his arrival. That was in 1977. So on July 19th, 1977, he flew to London. Now, the masters don't miss a trick. They know about numerology. July is a 7. 7 is a very sacred number. July is a 7. 77, that's 3 sevens. Kind of the opposite of 666, if you know what I mean. 777. And the 19th. In the decimal system, that's the first and the last, the Alpha and the Omega. He is all of that. And he comes to us. He's in London waiting for the best time to come forward. And he will come forward on worldwide TV and radio, hooked up by satellite, and announce that he's here and who he is. He says, I will call it my day of declaration when I declare who I am and that I'm here to help humanity and teach humanity. He comes as a teacher. He's not here to start a religion. He's not here to make people wrong. The masters don't do that. They're pure love, pure love. You know why? I mean, they totally accept us the way we are. Here's why. Because they were us. They have had every experience you can have in life on this planet. They've killed people. They've been killed. They've deserted people. They've been deserted. You know, they've hated, they've resented, they've loved, they've helped. You know, they've done everything we are doing. They know exactly what we're going through. They know us better than we know ourselves, so they never judge us. Never, ever, ever, because they know us. They just love us and want to help us. That's who Maitreya is. He's the head of the spiritual kingdom of planet Earth.
So are these people his journeymen or journey peoples, whatever the proper term would be? Are they spread around the world, different cultures, different languages, different religions? Is that kind of how it works?
Well, before the age of Aquarius is over, that's about 2,250 years, give or take a year. I'm kidding. About 2,250 years, there will be over 40 masters walking on the planet, giving us advice. I'm going to answer your question. Giving us advice in every aspect of humanity. There'll be a master for the arts. There'll be a master for science. There'll be a master for medicine and health. There'll be a master for government and politics. There'll be a master in every aspect of life, giving us suggestions. That's what they're going to do. They're going to say, well, have you thought about this? And then we have free will. They will never infringe our free will, ever, ever, ever. They'll never make us do anything or tell us to do anything. They'll make suggestions. If you might want to try this. Some people will try it and some people won't, until people start to realize who they really are. So he's coming first. And there are 14 masters on the planet right now in physical bodies waiting for Maitreya to come forward first. There's a master in London. There's a master in Darjeeling. There's a master in Tokyo. There's a master in New York. There's a master out here in Southern California in the San Bernardino Mountains. There's a master in major cities all around the world right now. There's 14 of them. Maitreya is the one in London. Now there's a master, Christians are going to think I'm nuts, but there's a master outside Rome, living on the outskirts of Rome. The Pope and a couple cardinals around the Pope know he's there. Nobody else does, and they've been asked not to say anything yet. The Master Jesus is back. He's not here to wave his arm over a desolate world. He's back to teach. He's here to help get the Christian church back on track. There'll be no more popes. Jesus will take his rightful place at the head of the Christian church, which is mostly Roman Catholic, and he will be available to answer questions. He's going to go speak in stadiums around the world. He will be available to answer questions. Did you really say this? What did you mean if you said this? And so on and so forth. His job, as I understand it from Benjamin Creme, is to get the Christian church back on track, to get rid of a lot of the man-made laws that we've come up with out of our brilliant minds, and get back to the basic teachings that he gave out. The church has lost its way. Not only the Christian church, all the major religions in the world have lost their way. They become burdened with dogma and man-made rules, and they all need to get back on track. So that's his job, and he's here now, but he won't come forward until Maitreya does. And people will see Maitreya and Jesus eventually standing side by side on TV. And Jesus will say, this is, they don't have any jealousy. He will say, this is my great brother, Maitreya, the world teacher. And Maitreya will say, this is my great friend and brother, the Master Jesus. And
now, sorry to cut you off there.
That's fine. I'm done.
In listening to this, Dick, I can understand your exuberance over this.
Yes.
Learning, but from an outsider's perspective, I'm going to tell you, it sounds cultish, man.
Yeah.
It sounds very cultish.
Yeah, it's not. It's not, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't insist that people believe what I say. And Benjamin Creme didn't insist that we believe what he said. And I didn't for a long time. I had to work this all out for myself. And that's what that's what we're all going to do when Maitreya and the masters come forward. Maitreya will be first, and he will introduce himself to the world. And then, the tree is known by its fruit. And people will just see how he acts, what he says, and come to their own conclusions. And that's the beauty of free will. Now, Benjamin Creme said about a third of the world is gonna like Maitreya's suggestions, most of them, and try to help out. Another third is going to take a wait and see attitude. I don't know. You might be the Antichrist. I'm going to just kind of wait. You might be a bad dude. I'm going to just sit back. And another third is going to say, look out, Antichrist, he's a bad guy. And that's to be expected. We're going to have to make our own decision. It'll be a very personal decision that each person will make over time based on their life experience of what's going on and what makes sense to them. It's common sense and life experience. That's what we can really go by. My common sense and my life experience says there is a God. My common sense and my life experience says that he has handy workers trying to create the kingdom of heaven on earth and inspire humanity behind the scene, and that's the Masters of Wisdom. So this is the first time in 98,000 years the masters will walk on the planet with us, talk to us, make suggestions, and so on. It happened 98,000 years ago. And what the masters did then was they gave us science, thinking maybe that'll speed up the evolution of humanity. We'll give them science they haven't developed yet. Well, what did humanity do? You know what we did. We made weapons and blew each other up. And that's the cause of the fall of Atlantis into the ocean. We blew parts of the continents into the ocean. And the masters retreated and they said, whoa, it's too early. We can't do this yet. We have to wait until humanity is more developed and ready to handle our information. So that experiment didn't work. They know ultimately it's all going to work out, but they don't know the process exactly because we have free will. They don't know what we're going to do, So yeah.
When is all this supposed to happen?
Yeah. I don't know. Nobody knows the hour or the day or the year, but I can tell you this. My personal best estimate is that by the end of 2025, between now and the end of 2025, he will have addressed the world.
That happens to be very coincidental with a time when aliens between 25 and 27 are supposed to be arriving as well.
Well, they're here. They're here in the thousands. They're up there all the time. We just don't see them. I'll tell you about that later.
Well,
I'll be happy to talk about it. But
as an experiencer, I know that. But
Yeah,
for the rest of the world that is still blinded to that idea,
yes,
that's when the full-on disclosure movement is supposed to happen, where we get the full-on introduction with the red carpet at the White House lawn and, the flags waving and,
yeah,
hot dogs, candy corn. You know how it goes.
yeah. That's probably not going to happen. Um, they are here at the request of our spiritual hierarchy, our spiritual masters. They are here working for them and for us to help. They're here at the request of each spiritual kingdom on the. Oh, I can't go into that yet. I got to finish talking about Maitreya, and then we'll do it.
Okay.
But Maitreya, my information is that Maitreya is here, that he will come forward soon. Now, what does soon mean? I don't know. But my best guess is by 2025. So if you're healthy at all, it's going to be within your lifetime. And here's how you'll know it's him. You're going to see his face on TV, hear his voice on radio. When there are 3 ways you're going to know it's him. And then you'll find out if I'm full of beans. The first way is you'll see his face on TV, but his lips won't move. You'll hear his words in your head telepathically in whatever your native language is. It'll be a very strange experience. You'll be going, he's not talking, but I'm hearing him. Are you hearing him? I'm hearing him. It'll be one of those. That's the first way you'll know it's him. The second way you'll know it's him is that while he's speaking, he will send out the love of God. We will feel the love of God in our hearts like we have never felt it before. A lot of people will be crying from that love, and I'll probably be one of them. The third way you'll know it's him is that when he's done speaking for nobody knows, 25, 35, 45 minutes, when he's done addressing humanity initially like that, there will be press reports from all around the world that while he was speaking, hundreds of thousands of people were miraculously healed. And I know it sounds impossible. I'm not asking you to believe this. But in those 3 ways, if that happens, you'll know that this is Maitreya, the world teacher, come to help us dig our way out of the mess we've made on this planet. Now, the masters can't do the work. We have to do the work because we made the mess. The law of karma, right? So what they will do is they will try to inspire us and encourage us to take needed actions to start cleaning up the mess. Now, while he's talking to humanity on the day of declaration, Benjamin Creme said there are 3 other things that will happen. Number 1, he's going to give us a glimpse of the past. We'll see the past in our mind's eye. He gave this experience to Benjamin Creme, and he said it was the most incredible thing. It was like I was in this big globe, and over here was all the events of the past. I could see them happening as if they were happening right now. He's going to give us that experience in our mind's eye. He's going to show us where humanity lost its way. Then he's going to give us a glimpse of the brilliant, wonderful, loving, peaceful, justice-filled future that humanity has ahead of us if we make the right choices. And he will use that vision of the future to inspire us to action. And so we will all have that glimpse in our mind's eye of the wonderful, wonderful world that's ahead of us. I'll tell you something. The book of spiritual experience for humans is about to be rewritten. And it's an exciting time to be alive. I'll tell you, we are so lucky, so blessed. Actually, it's no accident. Do I have to quit? Are we going to commercial?
Well, we got about 30 seconds, so keep
going.
going.
Well, my parents were, every generation comes because it fills a need. My parents were here for World War II. They ended the war. They defeated the Axis powers and saved the world. I think we're here for this purpose, to start turning the world around. And we'll see. But I mean, if that's true, it's really important that we're here now, and it's a real blessing. Yeah. People are going to see stuff happen they won't believe.
Dick, on that note, we are going to go to commercial here. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go with Dick Larson, our guest, Maitreya, and aliens. We're getting into the aliens next.
Thanks,
are they
Dave.
here? Yes, they are. The question is, when are we going to find them aliens? Because, you need more aliens to to make the woo happen right here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back. All right, my man, I'm going to take a quick break here, and we got about 6 minutes. I'm going to put you back in the green room, okay?
Sure. Thanks for listening.
Not a problem. We'll be right back. Be right back, people. Then I'll say hello to all of you who have entered. All right. I am back. Did the chair move? Did the chair move? Anybody? No. All right. Let's bring Dick back. Hey, Dick. How you doing?
Hi, Dave. I'm well. Thank you. I know
Yep.
this sounds weird.
Yeah.
And I get that all the time. So I'm used to it. There are a couple of experiences I'd like to share about the masters, if you don't mind, and then we'll go to the space people.
Sure. We can do that.
There are 5 ways, and I'll tell this to your audience. There are 5 ways that I'm aware of that you can know.
Wait until we come back from the radio. We got about 2 minutes here.
Okay.
And then we'll get into that. That works.
They've seen a master and don't know it. That's what I'm saying.
All right. We'll get into that. Let's say hello to Pig Volo. Who else has joined us here late? Nicole Sakic, the lovely cryptid huntress. And who else do we have here? Scrolling on up. Let's see. Delilah, how are you? And in the background, you can't see him. Little Timmy Senor looks beautiful tonight. Absolutely beautiful. And Matt Geek, good to see you. Pardon me, we got about another minute here. Sorry. Rob Heatherly, how you doing, man? Good to see you in the chat room again. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And who else do we have? Asteroid, good to see you. I think we're caught up. Yeah, we're caught up. Yeah. Mama Susan, how are you? Andrew Reed, good to see you, man. I want to say a big thank you to our super chatters tonight. Derek, Thomas, Charles, Christine, Baba, Cat, Chaser, Louis ×2, Flash, Mennonite Abe, and Obi Flett. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. 10 seconds. Our store is open on our website, spacedoutradio.com. And let's get going here. Let's do hour 2 now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate the love each and every one of you has for us tonight. Reminder to all of you, or let's just say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ultradian. Ultradian is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Maitreya, the Masters, and some aliens. We got Dick Larson with us tonight. Dick, thank you so much for joining us for the next hour.
Thank you, Dave. Happy to be here.
All right. Now, you believe some of these ascended masters are already here?
Yes. There are 14 on the planet right now, but over the last 30 years or so, there have been, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 of the masters that have been very active in introducing themselves to people one at a time. And they don't actually walk up and say, hi, I'm one of the masters of wisdom. How are you? They don't do it that way, but they will appear to people. Now, remember I said the masters are, they're called masters because they're master scientists. They're masters over themselves. They're not masters over us. We have free will. But what they will do is they will appear to people to give them hope or teach a lesson. And they've been doing that for 30 or 40 years, according to Benjamin Graham. Here's what happens. Somebody has an experience of somebody they think is a master. They write a letter to Share International Magazine. And then Benjamin Graham would get the letter and he would ask his master, was this a real experience of a master? And if so, which one? And then if it is, he would publish those letters in Share International Magazine. And at the end of the letter, confirm that his master said that that was an experience of Maitreya or the Master Jesus. The most common ones were the master from Tokyo, the master that was Mary, the mother of Jesus, but most of them were either Jesus or Maitreya or both. Sometimes they both appeared at the same time. And they appeared as an old woman or a little girl or a homeless person or a wealthy person, an African American, an Asian American, a Caucasian. They would appear any way they want to appear, and usually not for very long. So there are five ways that people can know. And every time I do this, my audience has people that have had an experience. They realize it when I say this. 5 ways that you can know if you've seen a master. And the masters usually appear, like I said, to teach a lesson, give people hope, or let people know that they're going to be ultimately, whether they know it or not, working with the masters. The first one is there's something special in the eyes. Either they're really deep, 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 or they're very extraordinarily beautiful or very touching. I had an experience. I was driving home from meditation one night, meditation group in Pasadena, California, and I stopped at a red light, and there was a bus bench over to the side, and there was a homeless guy in a filthy trench coat, all slouched down with a beard and a mustache, and he looked at me like this. He looked up like this at me. And my very first thought, Dave, and I didn't think about it, my very first thought was, that guy is looking right through me. And then the light changed green, and I went on, and I forgot about it. Well, I didn't forget about it. I finally wrote to Benjamin Creme. He said that was the Master Jesus. Now, something special in the eyes. That's an example. Another one is an ordinary experience, but you can't get it out of your mind. I used to take money down I lived near a little park in Pasadena. I would take money down and give it to a homeless guy that was there. Well, I went down one time with cookies that my mother had sent me from Minnesota, a little can of cookies to give to a homeless person, and he wasn't there. But over across the park, there was this guy folding clothes on a bus bench out of a shopping cart. He was obviously homeless, had shoulder-length brown hair. And I went up to him and I said, "Hi, are you," sometimes they're called campers. I said, "Are you a camper?" And he said, "Yeah, I guess you could say that." And I said, "Well, I want you to have these." I said, "These came from my mother. She baked these then, and I'd just like you to have them." And he said, "Oh, if they're from your mother, I'm sure they're very, very good." And he said, "Thank you." And I walked away. Well, I couldn't get him out of my mind. Just an ordinary experience talking to a homeless guy. Kept coming up in my mind, coming up. So I finally wrote to Benjamin Creme. That was Maitreya. Then that's another one. It's an ordinary experience. You can't get it out of your mind. Here's another one. You feel joy or love beyond your imagination, and there's no reason to feel that way. I was walking across the campus of Cal State University. I was going for my master's degree and walking towards the parking lot, and 2 boys were walking towards me, 2 students, and I looked up at the last minute, and right between them, behind them, was a young lady, looked to be about 19 or 20, shoulder-length brown hair. And as she walked by, she gave me just a half smile, like that Mona Lisa kind of smile. Oh, my heart just leapt for joy. I was so happy. I felt like my feet were barely touching the ground. And I thought, man, I wish I could make people feel that happy just by smiling at them like she did. Well, of course, I couldn't get it out of my mind. I finally wrote to Benjamin Creme. She was Maitreya. So that's another one. You feel joy or love that there's no reason to be that happy or that filled with love. Here's another one. You see somebody, you notice them, and then you look back and they're gone. And there's nowhere they could have gone to. They just disappeared. Happened to me, a guy with a limp was crossing the street at a red light. And I looked over to the side and I looked back and he wasn't there. And I looked around, there's nowhere he could have gone. That was a master. They will drop little hints like that. And the 5th way is they will give you a hint. I was working at a Share International booth. We're giving out information to people who are interested at a convention. And a young African-American came up to me, looked to be about 23, 24, maybe 30. And he started talking about pollution and how bad it is and all this. And I said, no, we can do something about it. If we get to work, we can change, we can fix it. And he said, well, you can, but I can't because I'm the observer. And I thought to myself, oh man, I'm talking to a master. So I talked a little bit more. Sure enough, I wrote to Benjamin Creme. He was Maitreya. They appeared just like ordinary people. Some older, tons of letters in Share International, some with photos of the person. So if your listeners have had a similar experience, chances are really good they were blessed with an experience of a master. And I bet you've had one, Dave.
Oh, I think we've all run into that person that seems to be on a higher spiritual plane, but they can't all be masters. I mean, how do you tell the difference between a master and somebody who's just on a higher spiritual plane? Like I can tell you right now, my business manager for SOR, Kira, she is totally on a different plane than I am. I could never reach what she is at or see what she sees.
Yeah.
And yet, to me, I look at her or my guru Pascal. I look at them and I would love to be able to ascend where they are on the spiritual plane.
Yeah.
I just don't see myself getting there. So
Yeah.
how do I know that, or how do I know the difference between what is an ascended master and somebody who is just very much higher up on the spiritual level?
Well, I have two comments. Those 5 ways that I said you could recognize a master, that's about 95% certainty that was a master. Now, as for people like you're talking about, and we all meet them, you're absolutely right. We're all evolving. We're all having hundreds of thousands of lifetimes, and we keep coming back. This is why prejudice doesn't make any sense. We've been every race. We've been every sex. We've been grandparents, grandchildren, single all our life, alone all our life. We've been all of those things. And when you start to realize that you're a living soul, you're on the final stretch of rebirth. You may have 9, 12 lives left. That's it, out of hundreds of thousands. Thank God the soul is eternally patient. But here's what happens. We're all on different levels. Humanity is. We're all at different stages of evolution. That's the nature of the animal. So you will get there. It's just maybe not in this lifetime. But we're all at different levels. That's what makes the world go around. We're not all the same. And so those who have risen, they probably don't proclaim it or make a big deal out of it, but they end up teaching others in one way or another. They're teachers. They turn out to be teachers in one way or another through how they live their life, as an example, and whatever else. But yeah, we're all on different levels. So you're going to meet those people for sure. That doesn't mean they're a master.
No, and I understand that. But people who are on a higher spiritual plane, are they closer to ascending than, say, someone who is like myself?
Yes, unless they take a couple lives off. You can coast through life. It's not a race. You can coast through life and just take what comes and not try to spiritually grow or grow in consciousness at all. There's no law that says we can't do that. We have free will. But, those who don't do that, those who continue to persevere and our job really is to learn and grow. Learn and grow and serve others. It's through serving others that we serve God. We don't serve God directly. We serve God by serving others on the planet. That's the hard part. See, the masters live in the mountains. Any of these, I don't want to put down the Catholic Church, but I'll just say this. Those friars and so on that live in the desolate parts of the world in a monastery somewhere, and all they do is pray 24 hours a day and all that, and they work or they read the Bible and they do that. They don't have the problems we have. We have to do all that with humanity around us, with the day-to-day problems of paying the bills and taking care of our family and driving in smog and, all that other stuff. That's the hard life. Trying to be spiritual in that world is the hard life. And that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying, the soul, the Ageless Wisdom says you can picture the soul as a multi-pointed white light about 6 inches above the top of your head, connected to your mind and your heart by golden threads. And that soul's job is to imbue its will, which is God's will, into us so that we do God's will more and more each lifetime. Yeah.
Where do the aliens come in?
Okay, now, I said earlier, they're here at the request of our spiritual kingdom who talk to their spiritual kingdom. Now, I'm going to say, again, don't believe anything I say, you guys. just like everything I said before this. Don't believe it. I'm not here to convince you that what I say is true. But Benjamin Graham worked with the Space Brothers. He calls them the Space Brothers and Sisters. He says aliens is an awful name made up for them by the Western world to make them sound nasty and bad and evil. And he said, actually, they're human. They're human just like us. They don't all look like us, but they're human beings. He said, that's all that's out there in Cosmos is humanity. We're everywhere. Now, these space people that we see in the sky, that when we see their ships in the sky, they are not from the Pleiades. They're not from Sirius, according to Benjamin Graham and my information. They are from our solar system. Every planet is populated in our solar system with human beings. How can that possibly be? I'll tell you. Our scientific knowledge is so limited that we don't understand the potential. Here's what the deal is. You'll never hear this from another source, I promise you. I'd be surprised if you did. We are physical, solid physical, liquid, gas. Those are the three makeups of life on this planet. Physical, liquid, and gas. Those three states of existence. There are different levels above gas that are like gas, like oxygen. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't touch it, but we know it's there. We've proven it's there. Well, there are levels of physical existence above gas. The Ageless Wisdom calls it etheric physical. It's like the ethers are a very, very fine vibration, high gas. Well, etheric physical, if you have etheric vision, you see etheric physical. The beginnings of etheric vision are people who see auras. That's the beginning of etheric vision. We're the only planet just the right distance from the sun that we can be in solid and liquid bodies and not burn up or freeze to death. All the other planets are either too hot or too cold for solid physical life. They are in etheric physical. They're physical, and they see each other just like you and I see each other, but they're not solid liquid physical. They're etheric physical matter. Well, so are their spaceships. That's how they live on those planets. They have homes, they have transportation, they have families, everything we have. But they're on every planet in our. Now, the visitors that are coming to see us make sense, very logical. They're from our two neighbor planets, Mars and Venus. And the craft are also etheric physical. Their homes are etheric physical. We land a camera on Mars, it doesn't see anything but desolation. That's because the camera doesn't have etheric vision. But there are some people that do have etheric vision. They see the UFOs up there all the time. They just don't say anything because people think they're crazy. But there are people with etheric vision, and more we will all get etheric vision. But right now, their craft are made out of etheric physical. So here's the deal. When they want us to see them, they just lower the vibration of their spacecraft to become temporarily solid physical. They can do the same thing with their bodies. They can lower the vibration of their bodies. Their science is thousands of years ahead of our science, especially Venus. And they can lower the vibration of their physical body and walk down the street and shake your hand. They can look like they did with the Pope. They landed in his garden. They talked to him. It was written up in all the major magazines. I've got the article here around the world. This was in 1961, and the Pope talked about it. That's why we don't see the craft all the time. We only see them when they want us to see them. So, and the craft are everything from 30 feet in diameter to, 10 football fields long. They're all different lengths and shapes and sizes, depending on what they're designed to do. The motherships, they're huge. So Mars has more people on it than planet Earth. Mars has about 8 to 9 billion people on it. Now it's a smaller planet. So guess what? The Martians are shorter. Martians are short. They're about 4'10", 4'8", 5 feet. They don't get much taller than that. Venusians, on the other hand, can be very tall, very beautiful people, as I understand it. Now, each planet has 7 rounds of life, and a round is millions of years. Planet Earth, and that's evolution, until we become a perfected planet. The planets will become perfect too. Venus is in the 7th round. They're almost a perfect planet. Benjamin Creme said, if you were to meet somebody from Venus, they're called Venusians. They're not Venetians. Those are the blinds. They're Venusians. He said, if you were to meet somebody from Venus, they're so loving and knowledgeable, you would think they were a god. And that's what the Pope thought. He bowed to them. He dropped to his knees in front of the guy that got it, the Venusian that got out of the spacecraft. And the Venusian said, stand, stand. They're almost perfect. Their planet is almost a perfect planet, so they're almost perfect. Mars, on the other hand, is the same as Earth. We're in the middle of the 4th round out of 7 rounds of life. So there's millions of years left for planet Earth. But Mars didn't make all the mistakes that we made, so their science is thousands of years ahead of ours. And they have a different social system on Mars than on planet Earth. They're divided up between, well, it's not important. So Mars is the manufacturing plant. They love to make things. They love to build things. And so they're the manufacturing planet for our solar system. The different planets want a ship. They put in their order to Mars. Mars makes it. They go pick it up. There's an interplanetary parliament of masters. There's masters for each planet. They get together every 250 years because they're in charge of the plan for our solar system. See, each planet has a god. That's the god we pray to. Then the solar system has a god. The god resides in the sun of the solar system. And then each galaxy, we're part of the Milky Way galaxy, each galaxy has a god. So you see, each god is responsible for making the plan work within their area of responsibility. And so there's a god for the plan for the solar system. Well, the masters, the interplanetary parliament of masters, work to support the evolution of the planet. And here's what happened, Dave. Do you mind that I'm talking like this?
Oh, you run, man. We got 2 minutes to go before we got to go to break.
Okay. Earth is holding back the evolution of the solar system because we can't end war and we can't end starvation. So the others, just like your body when you get an infection, rushes in to help. Well, that's what's happening. They're rushing here to help us. They're keeping the planet alive by mopping up pollution until we can do the job. Now, they can only mop up so much because it's not their planet. They're limited by karmic law. And they're doing other things to help us because they need to get this planet back up to health for the purpose of the whole solar system. We'll talk more about that.
I love it. I mean, when you believe then that there are humans on Mars, or do you believe that there are aliens on Mars? And the reason why I ask, so we got about a minute to go.
Sure.
Elon Musk had stated that, when we start colonizing Mars, humans will be able to go to Mars, but those who are born on Mars and are acclimated to Mars will never be able to come to Earth because of the gravity, because of the density in our bodies changes, and we mutate. Are they human or are they aliens?
He's got an inkling of the idea. Yeah, we're not going to colonize Mars unless they invite us. And they probably will. According to Benjamin Creme, the masters are very excited about our space program. They think it's a wonderful idea. They wish us well. They want to help us, and so on. So it's interesting. It's an interesting topic. Again, don't believe anything I'm saying.
All right, my friend, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we have Dick Larson for another 30 minutes on Spaced Out Radio tonight. And what a show it has been. We're going to continue with the alien talk with Dick. And where are we in the world, in the universe, in our own solar system? Where have we colonized? Where have we not? Where are we going? Let's get them rockets into space and find out. Spaced Out Radio second half kicks off right after this. Thank you for tuning us in. Good night, Catherine, and thank you for that lovely super chat, my dear. Mwah! That's for you. And much love to you, my dear, down in Atlanta. Thank you. Oh, man. This is flying by here, dude. Flying by.
It's fun.
Oh, I'm having a blast.
I tell you, you got a lot of guts having me on here to talk about all this strange stuff. I admire your courage.
Oh, man. It's all good. It is all good, man.
I've been called
All
crazy.
good.
You know, I do public lectures, and I've been called crazy. I've been called the Antichrist. I've been called everything you can think of. And you just get used to it after a while, you know. But I think it's my job. I think it's one of the reasons I'm on the planet, is to tell people about Maitreya and the Space Brothers and Sisters. And so that's what I try to do.
Hey, just roll with it, man.
Yeah.
Roll with it.
Yeah.
Hi, Cindy Pruitt. Hi, Body Tech. Good morning to you in the UK. All right.
The UK, how exciting.
Oh, yeah. We have the UK in here, Australia in here.
Ooh.
Rafaela, I believe, is from, she's not from the Czech Republic, or maybe she is. Somewhere like that. She's around the Czech Republic. Alien Critter, how you doing? And lots across the U.S. and Canada. I haven't seen my Mexican crew here lately. Wonder where they've gone. Recently, we've had people from Brazil and all over. Norway. Shaq from Norway is here.
Cool.
Greg from Thailand is not.
You got quite an audience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Raphael is from the Czech Republic.
Cool.
Grantavius is from Oregon, but his mustache is from Uranus. Yeah. Did I see the shark attack in Egypt? No, I'm not sure I want to. Sweet Tony D, he's from the UK. Good morning, my man. Skip to my Lou, she is from Denmark. Lex says, well, I'm in California, but I'm Mexican. I know, but I have like a bunch of Mexican listeners who come on in. I haven't seen them in a while. I miss them. Oh, yes. Paramarv, I will get to that next, buddy. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Derek Galloway says, I'm from Dave Scott's backyard. You know what? You know what? It's taken me, I've lived here 8 years. 8 years. And I mowed my lawn yesterday, and it is finally where I want it. Finally where I want it. You know when you finally have that nice cut that you look at your grass and you're like, damn, that's looking good. That's where I am right now.
It's a process, getting it there.
Oh.
Yep.
Tell me about it.
Yep.
All right, I got a couple questions from our audience for you.
Good. I love questions. I love
them. And let's see. Gizmo from Abbotsford. How you doing, buddy? It's my hometown right there.
Oh.
Yep. This is the kind of guy who's done the cruise on South Fraser Way on a Friday and Saturday night with the windows down and the music cranked, probably a little Bon Jovi or Def Leppard from 1991. You know what I'm talking about, Gizmo. Take that cruise. Never go past Trethewey, though. All right, we got 20 seconds. Thank you to Catherine, Justin, Derek ×2, Louis ×3, Sasquatch, Shaq Valet, Thomas Charles, Christine, Baba, Obi, Mennonite Abe, Flash Forward, and Cat Chaser for the super chats. And don't forget our what am I looking for? Our store, spacedoutradio.com. And here we go, everyone. And here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Final time tonight, we say hello to our good friend Dick Larson. We've been breaking down Maitreya and aliens all night long. Dick, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to kick this half hour off with some audience questions here. We're going to start off with our man Paramarv. As long as we're talking about Mars, there are stories of some Earthlings using jump rooms or portals to transport to underground areas of Mars. Can you confirm or address this?
I cannot confirm that. I doubt it. There are so many rumors and misunderstandings about space travel and about the planets around us that it's really hard to sort through it all. It's like, how do you know if what you see on YouTube is a real UFO? Well, I can tell you lately, almost all of them are. The fakes are pretty easy to spot anymore. But yeah, they're coming out more and more and more in the open. They want us to know they're there. They want us to know that they're here to help, not to hurt us. But they don't see. They only appear to people they know won't be afraid of them. That's what they try to do, because they're telepathic. You know, I saw here. I'll tell you right now, Maitreya has a huge star that's up in the sky. Actually, there are 4 of them. One north, south, east, and west. So no matter where you are on the planet, you can see one of them. And I can see one of them if I go outside and look up northwest. I can see one of those stars. What they are, they're huge, huge spacecraft. One's built by Mars, one built by Venus, one built by Jupiter, and another planet, which Benjamin Creme didn't name, built the 4th one. They're 5 football fields big, and their purpose is to shine like a star. 2,000 years ago, when Jesus came, there was a star called the Star of Bethlehem, and it shined. It was one of the brightest lights in the sky, and it moved through the sky and led the wise men to Bethlehem and shined down on the manger where Jesus was, and so that the wise men could find him. That was not a star. That was a spaceship requested by our spiritual kingdom, 3 football fields big, specifically for that purpose, to announce the imminent arrival of the teacher for the age of Pisces, Jesus. You know, the symbol for Pisces is the fish. He fed the crowd with fish. He said, I'll make you fishers of men. There's all these fish analogies. There's 2 symbols for Christianity, the cross and the fish. A lot of people don't know why it's the fish. It's because Jesus was the teacher who came to inaugurate the age of Pisces and teach the love of God. Well, now there's a star up in the sky to announce the imminent arrival of the teacher for the age of Aquarius. We have moved out of the influence of the great constellation Pisces, and in 1635 we moved out, and in 1675 we moved into the influence of Aquarius, the next constellation. So now we're being bombarded by Aquarian energy, and it changes things on the planet. Well, there's a big star up there now to announce the imminent arrival of the teacher for the age of Aquarius. And that star, like I said, is a UFO, and there's 4, so you can see one. Well, my wife was looking out the kitchen window one night, and she said, "Is that Maitreya star up there?" And I said, "I don't know. Let's go outside and look." So we went outside. I took my cell phone, and Benjamin Krem said that they're telepathic, and if you can get their attention, they may respond to you or may not, depending on how busy they are. And I said to Maitreya's star, I said, if you're Maitreya's star, please flash colors. And I put my phone on full zoom and I videoed it. And man, I took about 15 seconds of video and I loaded it in my computer. And man, you should see the colors: orange, pink, green, blue, purple, just flashing as fast as they could. That was one. Then I said, if you're the star, would you please move? And we waited, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds. And it went down and over and back. And I looked at my wife and I said, "Did that move or did I make that up?" And she said, "No, that moved." So we knew that was Maitreya's star because they responded to our thought. Well, that star is up there to announce his arrival. That was a request of our space brothers and sisters that they would make those craft and put them in the sky. They came up there in about 2000. They were put in the sky. And so they've been up there. They weren't there before. They've been up there to let people know. And if you go out and look in the night sky, when it's clear, look for one of the brightest stars you can see, but look at it for a while and see if it flashes colors, because stars don't do that. It flashes, they typically flash white. Well, they will flash colors. And when you see the colors, it's probably Maitreya's star that's here to announce his imminent arrival. But no, the Martians can go into our planet. So can the Venusians and their spacecraft, because they're etheric. What they do, they have 4 purposes that I'm aware of being on the planet right now, being around us. One is to help clean up pollution to the extent they can to keep the planet alive until we wake up. So they have ships inside the planet Earth mopping up mostly the most dangerous pollution, which is nuclear etheric pollution. See, our instruments are too crude to measure etheric nuclear energy, but that's the most devastating. And that's what's leaking out of all our nuclear sites. And it's causing 2 things. Nuclear pollution is causing earlier and earlier onset of Alzheimer's, and it's causing a much higher incidence of autistic children. It used to be 1 in every 800 children born was autistic. Now it's 1 in 80. And I was a special education autism teacher as one of my careers. And so the nuclear pollution, they're in the planet mopping it up. They're in our oceans mopping up, because we put nuclear waste in the oceans. They're in there helping to mop up that nuclear waste to keep the planet alive. And they have great ships up in the air, up in the sky, mopping up pollution, air pollution. And they do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They've got crews that are dedicated to doing this. They're helping us. They're here to help. Now, they can't mop up all the pollution because they didn't make it. Karmic law stops them from doing that. But they can mop up enough. And they've been doing this for decades, you guys. We owe them a great debt of gratitude, and we don't even know it. But they've been doing this for a long time. That's one of the things they're doing. They're mopping up pollution. Another part of their mission is they're making the crop circles, the corn circles that you see. Those are just friendly signs that they're here. Benjamin Krem said they hover their craft. They think their aircraft, their spacecraft are so sophisticated that the machinery responds to their thought. They don't push buttons and pull levers and steer wheels to make it go. All they do is think where they want to go and what they want to do, and the spacecraft responds to it. So they think up the design, they fly over a crop, they're there maybe 10, 16, 15 seconds, and it happens. They make the crop circle, and they're gone. Some people have seen the light coming out of the bottom of the spacecraft making the crop circles, but that's how they do it. It's just a friendly sign that says, we're here, we hope you like our art. It's a friendly way of saying we're here. So they make the crop circles. There's something else behind those crop circles, though. They're using them to mark the magnetic poles, the vortices of the magnetic forces on planet Earth. So they're marking those magnetic spots where the most magnetic power is, because that will be used in combination with the sun's energy when they give us the science of light, the technology of light. That technology will provide energy for the whole planet, for all of our needs, free of charge, pollution-free, basically forever. But they can't give us the technology of light until we stop war, because we'll make a weapon out of it. We will. We'll figure out a way. So they're going to give us that technology, but not yet. So that's the second thing they're doing, is making crop circles. The third part of their mission is the star, which I already told you about. And then the fourth part of their mission is they're part of the forces of light from our solar system, but primarily our neighboring planets, who are working with the masters of wisdom on our planet to help us evolve. Questions?
What about the bad guys?
The bad guys.
Not all aliens are good.
Well, my information is that they are now. That the bad guys are no longer allowed to fly. Now, that's my information for what it's worth. Don't believe me. But my information is that they're here to help. They didn't massacre cattle. That was done by black ops of the governments, Western governments, mostly the U.S., slaughtering cattle to make it look like UFOs. See, our governments have been telling us two things, as you know. They've been telling us they don't exist and they're dangerous. Now, which one is it? I mean, you can't have it both ways. The truth is they do exist. They're friendly. They're up there in the thousands all the time, but they're etheric, so we can't see them unless they want us to. And they're friendly. That's my information. My information is they're full of love for humanity and they want to help. Now, this isn't their planet. So they're not going to come forward before Maitreya and the masters do. When Maitreya comes forward, then he'll introduce us to the space brothers and sisters, and then we'll find out all about them. Especially if somebody asks Maitreya that question, what about the UFOs? He'll go into great detail about it. But they're here at his request and the request of the masters to help keep the planet alive for the evolution of the solar system and our planet.
All right, let's get to another question here. Mike is asking, which major city in Canada is the master in?
Not yet. There will be one, but not yet. Not of the 14 that are here now.
Tell me it's not Toronto, because I don't need another Maple Leafs fan.
So there isn't one yet in Canada.
Either way.
The masters can travel there anytime they want to, but there isn't one whose base of operations is in Canada. Not yet. There will be.
All right. Let's go to Derek. Why do the masters of other planets tolerate the masters of Earth not helping Earth ascend?
They don't have anything to tolerate because our masters have been helping Earth evolve. I'll use the word evolve instead of ascend. It means the same thing. We're evolving as a planet. See, the planet evolves because humanity evolves. So as we evolve, the planet evolves. It can't evolve without us evolving. The masters have been working behind the scenes. For example, they're the inspiration behind all the great scientific discoveries that we've made. And God knows in the last 100 years, it's been astounding. They're the inspiration behind the great artists and musicians of the history of the world. They are the inspiration behind the great advances of humanity We have advanced more than we realize. And Maitreya and the masters will explain that, I'm told, that they will help us see how ready we are to move on, to continue to evolve. And once we do, this planet will continue to evolve. The masters of the other planets don't get involved in the evolution of another planet unless they're invited, because they have their own work to do. It's like Sirius. The masters on Sirius have their own stuff to deal with. They don't deal with us, and people from Sirius don't fly here. By the way, something really incredible about Sirius. Sirius is our sister solar system. It is the nearest solar system to us, and Sirius is incredibly evolved. It evolves very, very rapidly, people in Sirius, in that solar system. And we are Benjamin Krem said, we are so fortunate to have a direct route to Sirius as our solar sister, because their evolution is really fast. I'll give you an example. Judas, who betrayed Jesus and had him killed. Judas was going to be held back in evolution for a long time because of that. But he chose the path to Sirius. Once he became a perfected human being, he chose the path to Sirius. As once you become a master, you can choose different paths. And he has evolved so fast on Sirius that he's at the same level Maitreya is now. See, Maitreya and the Buddha are brothers. They both were the first two to graduate from humanity on planet Earth to the spiritual kingdom permanently. They're brothers. They work together all the time. Maitreya, Buddha, and Jesus. They're like this. I mean, they just work together all the time. And so we are lucky to have Sirius because their evolution is so fast. Yeah. So they don't get involved in our evolution unless we ask them to, and we did. We asked them to come, help clean up the pollution, make some crop circles, let us know they're here, let us know they're friendly and loving and peaceful. And, for the most part, that's what's been happening.
Okay. So do you believe then in all of our planets within our solar system do have forms of life on them?
Oh, sure. Sure, but they're etheric. Unless you have etheric vision, you can't see them. And Benjamin Krem said there's about 2,000 what you would call aliens, space people, living on planet Earth right now. They're either born to a human mother and don't realize that they're from Venus, for example, until they get older, grow up, or they come here as a child and grow up here. And the people that come here out of the spacecraft can only make their body solid physical temporarily. So they can be here for a few days or a couple of weeks, but then they got to go because it might hurt them to stay physical any longer. So they go back to etheric like that. But we have some space travelers who are living on the planet now, and what they're doing, they're very, very quiet. They're very low key. They work behind the scenes. For example, one of them worked with President Kennedy in the Cuban Missile Crisis and gave him suggestions. He thought he was an advisor for the White House. He wasn't. He was sent by our masters. He was a Venusian, and
Yeah,
he made suggestions on how to handle it so we didn't blow up the world. Yeah. Every planet has life. Some planets are not very evolved. Some planets you would not want to set foot on at all. You'll be carved up in a minute.
Like which one?
I have a list here. Where's my list?
Because we need that one.
Yeah, we don't want to go to Pluto. The most evolved are Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Mars, and Earth. By the way, there is a planet, you Star Trek lovers are going to love this. There is a planet, Vulcan, in our solar system, but it's a perfect planet, so it disappeared. It became etheric, but it's there. That's my information. So, yeah, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Mars, Earth, and Vulcan. Those are the planets you can go to and be safe. They love us. They think it's great that we're landing stuff on Mars. They see it all. They see it all. They're in support of our space program. They think we're going to learn a lot from it, and we are learning a lot. But they're going to help us. When they come open, once Maitreya introduces them to humanity, they're going to openly work among us and help us because the masters have asked them to do it. For example, they're going to give us the technology of light as a source of power for the whole planet, for everybody. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. We only got about 3.5 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you. Do you believe Nibiru is real?
I don't know what that is.
That's the planet X.
I don't know what that is.
Said to be floating around our solar system. Always on the, nobody from Earth can ever see the damn thing, but everybody believes it's out there.
I don't think so. It may be a huge spacecraft. Some of them are just unbelievable. You've seen clouds that look like spacecraft. There was one over Mount Shasta that just was over the whole mountain. I mean, it was unbelievably huge. And Benjamin Crema said that cloud is hiding a spacecraft. It's a real spacecraft because they're etheric, physical. They can make the spacecraft look like anything they want to. So it's pretty cool. May I give out the website?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm a volunteer for Share International. There's about 4,000 of us that have decided to help get the word out for Benjamin Creme. We're all volunteers. None of us get paid. None of us are looking for glory or fame. We're just ordinary people like all you guys listening and watching. And here's the website if you want to get more information about the Ageless Wisdom, Masters of Wisdom, Maitreya, and so on. Go to www.share, S-H-A-R-E, hyphen, that's a dash, international, all spelled out, .org. Don't go to .com. You'll get something else completely different. Share-international.org. Tons of information. Now, my local website here, for those of us in Southern California, I think it's beautiful and very informative. I even have a couple short videos on there, is Share, no hyphen, just Share International, all run together, SoCal, S-O-C-A-L, stands for Southern California.org. No spaces, Share International, SoCal.org, S-O-C-A-L. Yeah.
And your advice to someone if they run into one of these ascended masters of Maitreya?
Yeah. Just say thank you. Just say thank you and be grateful, and the Ageless Wisdom says that the path to spiritual growth is three things: meditation, with two things: meditation and service. Meditation and service. Prayer is sending spiritual energy to the spiritual universe. Meditation is downloading spiritual energy from the spiritual universe. So meditation isn't for everybody, but you won't know till you try it. But I recommend it. I recommend meditation, and find some way to serve. Pick up a piece of trash on the grass and throw it in the trash can. That's service to the world. Yeah. I can't thank you enough for having me on. Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun, and I love it when we get to push the limits of what we live in our daily lives, and I think we did that tonight.
Well, the truth will be in the future. We'll find out in the future if I'm full of beans, right?
Well, we'll all wait and see, and then if you are, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be pointing our fingers at you.
Okay, it's a great time to be alive, you guys.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Dick Larson, for being on Spaced Out Radio. What an absolute pleasure to get to know you, hear your research and your story. That was awesome.
Thanks. You're a good host. You're very professional and very kind. You didn't laugh at me once.
Well, I do have a face for radio and a voice for print. So
yeah,
with that, Dick, thank you so much. Coming up next in hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio, we're going to head over to Among the Missing. Steve Stockton has a great story for us. Then it's all about Dr. Stephen Greer with Little Timmy Senor and the UFO Report. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio is next. Great job, Dick.
Thank you. Great job to you.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time, my man.
I had a great time, and I appreciate the questions.
And I never laugh at a guest.
I can tell. I can tell you don't. Thanks again very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Take care, my man.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, there goes Big Dick Larson right there. And we are going to say goodnight to him. And I will be right back, people. It's warm in here tonight. Woo. I'll be right back. I got my window wide open and there's like no breeze coming in. None. Weird. I'm glad all of you are here tonight. Thank you for being here, everyone. I really appreciate that. It's a special night. Coming back on the air. No, Dave doesn't have any plans on getting a new dog. Dave has decided against it. I've had a dog for the last 20-some years. 24 years. And up here, it's very hard to find sitters for dogs. Thank you, Deb. Good to see you. Thank you to Deb. Lovey Love, Catherine, Justin, Derek ×2, Shaq, Sasquatch, Louie ×3, Thomas, Mennonite Abe, Obi Flat, Flash, Charles, Christine, Baba, and Cat Chaser for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love. Hi, Asimov. How you doing? And, yeah. My dogs were just old. Their back, being shepherds, their back ends had given out. They were having troubles walking. And yes, Nicole Marquise did a great job while I was gone. Great job. And so we had to put our dogs down on Saturday. Yeah, old Douglas Fir Stevenson and Shadow Carpenter. Here we go with hour 3, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. So glad to be back on the air with all of you. Much love to all of you tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ultradian. Ultradian is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time of the night once again where we say hello to Steve Stockton, who brings us another creepy story from among the missing.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Hello once again, my wandering wanderers. Steve Stockton here with you, ATM on SOR. Tonight, we bring you another true account from the pen of BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, a.k.a. Rob Carr. In the year of 1991, early September, my best friend and I had a frightful experience, which some believe to be a Bigfoot or some other cryptid. This encounter was so frightful that I finally filed a report 6 years later to the BFRO, the Bigfoot Research Organization, in 1997. The location was Ashland County, Ohio. My friend and I were high school seniors and had decided to go out during the night to investigate an old bridge, which many locals deemed to be haunted. My friend and I were very interested in the paranormal or ghostly beings and were novices at investigating these anomalies. We knew about Bigfoot, but really, that was the only so-called cryptid that we were aware of, and our interests were heavily laid in the spirit world. It was dark, and my friend and I approached the suspected haunted bridge. The bridge was one of those older railroad bridges that had the covered wooden structure that gave it the look and feel of an above ground tunnel. After walking through and exploring the bridge without any activity, we decided that it was time to head home. Upon exiting the bridge, we noticed the sound of rustling and movement. We were about 50 yards away from the tree line and really did not give much thought to these sounds. After several more minutes of walking, we stumbled upon an old and dilapidated barn that we thought would be worth a quick peek inside. The barn was standing in an open field not 30 yards from the tree line. Again, those rustling sounds of movement started back up, only now the movement sounded more like heavy footfalls. And it was also now accompanied by a loud growl, scream, yell type of vocalization right from the outset of the tree line. The terror begins when from the tree line emerges a huge animal of sorts on all fours, running directly at my friend and I. It was certainly bigger than a wolf, but smaller than a bear. Then we realized that this creature was not a normal animal of the woods. It came to a complete stop, and from all fours it stood up on 2 feet and once again started running toward us. This beast had to stand well above 12 feet in height and was as broad as a gorilla. We started to run back in the direction of home when out of my peripheral vision another beast on 2 legs emerged from the tree line. I think aloud, what type of nightmare is this? Thinking the second creature was joining in with the first, the beast seemed to ward it off with a loud growl that made the original beast retreat back into the forest. Just what we saw that day is very unclear to me. I am grateful, though, that the second creature seemed to play the role of protector and ward off the other beast that was running us down. If not for that, I truly believe that my friend and I would have not made it home that night. Well, friends, there you have it. What do you think of this strange cryptid encounter? I look forward to your comments. As for me, I'm Steve Stockton. Thanks for listening to another episode of ATM on SOR. I'll see you a little further on down the trail.
So nice. He said his name twice, Steve Stockton, from Among the Missing, taking us on another spooky journey. And of course, if you want more, head on over to his YouTube channel. He's got great reports there. YouTube.com/Among the Missing. Do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button. From the spooky stories to the stars above, it's time for the UFO report. Big news today from little Timmy Senor.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Tim, it's been a while, but it's glad to have you back on the air with me, my man. And thank you so much for helping out Marquise last week in my absence. And I know you're going to be helping him out on Thursday and Friday, which is going to be good. How you been doing, my man?
Oh, just great. Just great. Thanks for asking. I've been taking the side of the woo while you've been gone. It's given me a little chance to stretch my wings and talk some stuff that usually I wouldn't with you. I mean, I took some different angles with Marquise. It was a lot of fun.
Well, you are the woo master.
No.
You are a woo master, and we all need to appreciate the woo-ness that you bring each and every night to this show, my man. Each and every night.
Rockin'. Thanks for that.
Absolutely. And today was a very, very busy day. We're going to get into this very heavily over the next little bit here. But Dr. Stephen Greer, who I have never really been a fan of because of the way when I tried to send him an interview request, he wanted to know numbers. He wanted to know how much I was going to pay him. He wanted questions up front and center, which a real journalist never provides. Okay, he wanted a whole list of things, and I actually rescinded that interview request. Well, 20 years in the making, he held another disclosure conference in Washington, D.C. earlier today. And some people are loving it. Some people are ripping it. Some people don't know what to think. Tim, take it away.
Oh, okay. Well, Dave, in my opinion, I feel like we're in an age of disclosure right now. And we'll just call it that simply because it is the topic of parlance right now. And we know that David Grush is currently trending on Twitter. Disclosure is trending. Stephen Greer is trending. And so we should just enjoy this while we can. We've been waiting for so long for UFOs to be taken seriously, and finally it's making headlines. Now, we're only just getting to scratch the surface potentially with some of the new revelations that were made today by Stephen Greer and his group of whistleblowers and witnesses. But I think that there will be a fallout, and hopefully we'll hear that Congress listens. And now we know that Arrow and the people that are involved in that organization have been made aware of all of the information that has been presented both at this public hearing and also a confidential version that was made behind closed doors before the public presentation. So we know that, let's just go ahead and call it, in this age of disclosure, at some point, we're going to get the government backed up against the wall to a point where they're going to have to talk about this openly and seriously. And perhaps we'll get some information about real craft, real reverse engineering, and maybe even the pilots. That would be real disclosure. Now, that is the topic of the night. It's pretty exciting. I have some details. Very little opinion at this point because really it's hard to digest so much information after 3 hours of a presentation, at least, made today. There's quite a lot to talk about. But Dave, I'm very much down the middle on this. I'm not somebody that historically has a lot of information on UFOs. So when I see it come like this to public, it's kind of a jaw-dropping moment. So for me, today was pretty massive.
Well, I mean, it's something different than we've heard. I mean, Stephen Greer definitely takes a different approach to disclosure than what we are seeing with happening with the government. Greer has his own timeline of doing things. He has his own sources, and going back to what we saw a few years ago, there seems to be a real divide between Stephen Greer, his sources in government, and what we saw with Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and their sources in the government regarding this subject. Greer comes from, over 30 years of doing this and pressuring uh, members of the Congress and senators. So he has met with presidents, although that has never been confirmed. And the discussion that kind of went on today was a real mixed bag of aviation historians, like our good friend on this show, Jim Goodall, was mentioned, and everybody loves Jim Goodall for his knowledge.
Yeah.
Another good friend of this show, Michael Schratt, took part in this, and we got to get Michael back on the air here very soon, because
Yeah.
he is just so brilliant. But there were a number of insiders and alleged whistleblowers that he brought out that were their stories were extremely compelling. Apparently, these stories were sent to Arrow, and Dr. Greer had stated that he was shocked that Sean Kirkpatrick, the head of the Arrow program, really didn't even acknowledge that they were there. And this goes to show, Tim, a real divide. And we'll get into the experiencers here in a little bit, but it really goes to show that a big divide that is happening on the road to disclosure, because there are different roads. Which road wins or which one's the shortest, we don't know.
And it's interesting too, because we know that they actually share a lot of similarities. Danny Sheehan has worked for both organizations, and some of the whistleblowers have spoken to both organizations. And I think that probably the chips land where they need to when it comes to something like this. So if this whistleblower maybe would be handled better with Lou's team, then that's the way that would be presented. And some whistleblowers would do better presenting through Stephen Greer and his work, and so be it. But I think that they're really maybe working towards two similar goals. I believe coming from two trains of thought, whereas I think Lou and his team are looking for aggressive disclosure with whistleblowers, and perhaps looking into some of the um, allegations that can be supported through the work of Danny Sheehan in bringing some transparency forward via his work against the government directly. And then we have the work that Dr. Greer has done historically, which is pretty much pressing the buttons of the public and getting them to support and address some of the illegal potential programs that the government has been doing with reverse engineering and technology. And so, although they are two very similar goals in disclosure, very different ways of going about it. So that's why I think you have these two very separate fields of push, of support, and things like that. But at the same rate, we're still looking at disclosure. And today, I think, was monumental for people that have had experiences. This was a big moment for experiencers, in my opinion, and people that have experienced perhaps being taken, in one way or another, whether they think it was by us or them. It's an experience. And so we heard some of that from military whistleblowers, and you can call them experiencers, really, at this point, bringing that forward very publicly and respectfully. And I thought that that was great. We heard solid um, statements from 4 whistleblowers today, which I felt was the most poignant part of Stephen's presentation today.
Let's get to the experiencers here. There were a number of experiencers who stood up, took to the podium, and really shed their heartfelt stories about what happened to them. Okay, we're talking everything from white plasma balls surrounding these people, their family members, to almost being killed by fellow American soldiers. There were a number of these strange incidences that came out to play, and for anybody who is listening in for the first time, they'd probably look at this, Tim, and say, this is odd. We don't do that. We don't play the game that way. This is so phony. But for these guys who stood up, and their reports have allegedly been part of the whistleblower program, and their reports and evidence has been sent to Arrow as well. These guys were, as far as we know, legit.
Yeah, absolutely. Consider retired Colonel Donald Heckert, U.S. Air Force. And he was talking about the glowing plasma balls that you're talking about in his experience and coming in close contact with that. And then we heard from Michael Herrera, U.S. Marine Corps of Indonesia from 2009. And hearing his story was intense, how they came up upon a spacecraft potentially being used to mobilize what he thought were illegal drugs at one point, and then thought maybe it was humans. And that story was massively impactful, and some of the takeaways from that were extremely impactful. And then we heard from Stephen Digna Jr., U.S. Army Raytheon from Fort Irwin, California, and he experienced a black diamond encounter in Barstow, California. And he not only experienced something that he believes was human, where he was taken and perhaps he's not sure taken, but by military personnel. Days later, he experienced a craft that was in fact what he believes was ET. And how he described the craft was that it was almost alive, and that he considered it to almost remind him of a cat, how it purred and reacted to him touching it, which I thought was really quite remarkable. And then we heard from DC Long from U.S. Army Fort Bragg in North Carolina, bringing us his story about a hovering granite slab at a deep underground facility at Fort Bragg back in 2010. And his description of that was incredibly impactful, that he walked through a large room with these large granite slabs, one carved perfectly into a massive rectangle, and then other raw pieces of granite, what he's describing is what looked like granite, just hovering feet off of the ground. In what is considered a remarkable story, Dave, when he came back to the room, he left the room and came back just a few minutes later, and those items, those granite slabs, were completely gone silently from that room. And finally, we heard from Eric Hecker, who was a Raytheon contractor at South Pole, describing what he's calling a neutrino light array in ice shafts. And as we know, that is a real technology that was used back in what we thought was the 80s and early 2000s, and then discontinued. But when he went up there, he said that is in full working order by some unknown energy source. And so these are all really interesting stories that bring to light the potential of ET technology blended with human technology, human sources, and military interaction. It's all very overwhelming, and there's quite a lot to unpack, but you get the idea that these things really happened, and these whistleblowers and witnesses that are coming forward are telling a real story. And so, Dave, what is your feeling when you kind of reflect on some of these impactful witness statements?
Well, I think it goes to show that, and I didn't get to watch the entire thing. I have to be upfront with the audience. I do have two jobs, and at my daytime job, I was a little, you always get busy when you don't need to be busy and you need to be doing other things. You know what I'm saying? And the idea behind this, Tim, is I really felt what these guys were saying. Okay. I listened to a couple of them and it hit me. As an experiencer, if I put that hat on for a minute, you can tell when something is hitting somebody. These people were emotional about this. This was very real to them. Now, none of us were there to experience it, but it happened while on watch for their jobs. And the one thing that I do recall Greer stating was that there is this technology out there that it's time that humanity starts taking control back. I think it's a little bit too utopic. We can get into that when we return from the break here in about 40 seconds, and maybe we should. But the idea behind these experiencers and what they went through, they really made you feel their trauma. They really made you feel, that there is something nefarious going on behind the scenes when it comes to this topic. Is it grandiose? Well, Stephen Greer has been called grandiose and a little bit off topic. He's not in favor of many ufologists out there because of the way he's done things. But these people made me believe today, Tim. They made me believe, and it didn't give me much hope. I can explain that when we return on Spaced Out Radio. The UFO report with our resident Timbit, Timmy Senor. We're talking UFOs, Dr. Stephen Greer and his disclosure panel in Washington, D.C. earlier today. We're going to continue to dissect it when we return on Spaced Out Radio for the final half hour. Dude, you have no idea how exciting it is to be home and back on the air.
Yeah, it's very grounding to get rerouted with your fans, I'm sure. Get plugged back in.
It's been a good week. Been a good week, and to see everybody in the chat room and hanging on out, and I needed this.
That's great.
I needed this.
That's great. That's great. And that's what everyone is for. I mean, this show's as much here for you as you are for it feels like sometimes. And of course, there's been so much news. There's so much news. Unbelievable. And not even just with the whistleblower stuff. There's other stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas aliens? Dave.
I know.
Save me.
I know.
Hilarious.
Vegas aliens.
We missed them by how long? Or maybe they were there for us. They just got the dates mixed up.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to seeing where all of this goes.
Do you have any thoughts? Like, I mean, there's some pretty big stuff, and we know that there's going to get a lot of kickback from skeptics in the media. What do you... We don't have to talk about it now if you want to talk about it on the air, but let's hear it. Let's hear the Dave skepticism. Come on, let's hear it.
I will just sit here and wait.
Right. That's the Dave move.
I'll just sit here and wait. It's what I do best.
There's a game out that people can check out. It's getting horrible reviews, which is such a bummer because it could be so good. I think it's called Grayfield Incident. I'm pretty sure that's it. It's out on PC. It's about to come out on other platforms. But it's aliens, man, and they like land in a cornfield, and it's first person, kind of like aliens.
It's always aliens, dude. I don't know what you're trying to pull here, man.
Well, this game, let's see. Yeah, no, did I get it wrong? Yes,
Random Gee says to check your iMessage.
Oh, I will. Gray Hill Incident is the name of the game. Gray Hill Incident. And it's super creepy aliens game. Check it out. Uh-oh. I got sent a sound from RG. It's going to be rude, so I'm going to mute it. I'm sure it's going to be rude. Hold on. He's just trying to trick me into playing something on my mic. I'll bet you. He's a master manipulator. All right, I'm going to mute.
Yeah, he may have ripped one. Just so you know, he may have ripped one.
Okay, it's not what I thought. It's a bizarre alien sound. RG's got ETs.
He's got aliens, dude.
Yeah, that was a bizarre recording he just sent, but he swears
Recognizing
during
aliens.
it. He gets all antsy and he swears a little, so we'll have to do that after show maybe or something.
Yeah. Oh, we'll send old random guy the link.
There you go.
All right. Let's see if his Twitter's working today. At random Gee. No,
I guess
you're gonna have to send him the link because he doesn't have his Twitter up and
I
going.
can do that. He just recorded this, I guess, at Vegas site.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Here we go, Tim.
Okay.
Here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us on in. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. We continue on with the UFO report. Little Timmy Senor is here breaking it all down. We had major news today out of Washington, D.C., where Dr. Stephen Greer led a disclosure conference meeting with former military members and eyewitnesses who have sent their testimony as whistleblowers to AARO and the United States Congress and Senate. Tim, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
One of the things that we wanted to kind of talk about this hour was about the technology. Dr. Stephen Greer made some very loud claims, Tim, that the United States government is in possession of technology right now, along with Russia and China, that could eliminate all pollution on this planet within the next 10 to 20 years and eliminate all hunger on this planet within that same time zone and provide free energy for everybody on the planet. Your thoughts?
Yeah. And he's calling it the extraterrestrial red line. And in that, he bullet points some of his important points on this, calling out the ISG as technology from reverse engineering ET craft that has the capability to be a serious threat to them via quantum entanglement. Secondly, at least 119 ET craft have been downed near or over Earth. Thirdly, an EM scalar weapon can potentially reach beyond our solar system, and theoretically we have that. Fourth, we have these rogue ISG operations pose a threat to both ET and human civilizations. And then there is an imminent risk that these ISG rogue operations could cross a red line, requiring an ET response to protect innocent life elsewhere and on Earth. And so while this response would be self-defense and protective, it risks being deliberately portrayed as a, quote, alien attack. And prior to protective ET interventions regarding nuclear risks have already been deliberately wrongly portrayed for psychological warfare purposes. And then finally, therefore, it is imperative that the President, Congress, the Pentagon, and other U.S. government agencies obtain immediate command and control over these projects. So, Dave, it sounds like a cry out for taking a deep look into Black projects and perhaps exposing them and discussing the 119 ET craft that supposedly have been downed near or over Earth. Can we talk about that?
Well, I think, the one thing I want to mention about the technology first and foremost, Tim, if you don't mind, is the idea that he also mentioned, that's Greer, mentioned that this is going to cost billions of dollars, upwards of $50 billion, that he wants to make this happen. Number one. Number two, he also wants a lot of pardons, presidential pardons for people, and a lot of presidential executive orders in order to make this happen. It sounds, in typical Dr. Greer style, it sounds so grandiose. Yes, it may be the perfect solution, but how do we try and get there? What are the first steps? I don't care 100 steps from now. We're at baby steps with this. And I really don't, do believe that we need to find a path. We don't need a solution. We need a path to the solution. Nobody has really provided a path to the solution. And that's what I find a little bit disturbing about this. I mean, it's easy to say that Lockheed or Battelle or Boeing has that technology, or Raytheon or any of these major defense corporations have the technology hidden right now. That's great and dandy. Okay. But how do you get it? How do you get it in the public? These things are so far protected, that Jesus himself would have troubles moving the rocks around this to open up the vault in order to let these out. And this is where I question it. When you start throwing out $50 billion, you're losing a lot of people. When you start throwing out, the president needs like 150 executive orders to make this happen, it's never going to happen. So what do we do to get that ball rolling? I didn't see a lot of that today. Did you?
Well, he does come up with specifics. He presents recommendations. He does offer some steps towards it. But what he is asking for is a lot of assistance, a lot of lawyers to come together and convene and create a think tank on how to move forward. We can get into the law aspect that he's trying to attack by at some point here soon. But you brought up part of his recommendation, his number one recommendation, in fact, is that Congress to immediately pass the $50 billion to support research and development and application to zero point and free energy related systems requiring open source disclosure. That feels like a strong request for funding, the same way, we see the other teams asking for funding into protecting our skies. So this doesn't sound like anything out of the ordinary, asking for funding, looking into this, and specifically into free energy, I think is absolutely, that's a win-win if you can get that to happen. But again, you're talking about what are the baby steps towards it. And he says that there should be an amnesty provision for 6 to 12 months for all whistleblowers, executives, government personnel, and corporations, provided full and complete disclosures are made. And then after the amnesty period, individuals and corporations, both private and government, will be vigorously prosecuted, in which terms we're hearing that there's some pressure being applied at this point for whistleblowers and these groups to come forward, because if they don't, they'll be prosecuted. So it's applying pressure for people to come forward as well, potentially. Thirdly, he's asking that Congress should convene open hearings with whistleblowers and evidence, which we're starting to see. Fourthly, Congress to pass legislation to explicitly protect personal safety pensions and private assets of whistleblowers. Those are all great steps, like you were saying. But specifically, what we also need to see, and I think he also kind of highlights, um, is that there is kind of this quote unquote call to action that he's requesting from people, meaning that he's activating the public, that if you know anyone or if you're a witness, you should contact them. That you should start writing your members of Congress and to senators, at least, asking the president to support open hearings and disclosure. He also says that there should be a network with your friends and family to support disclosure, meaning talk about it at home and on the level, that you can expand consciousness. Contribute to the Disclosure Project Research and Legal Defense Fund, of course. And if you can assist with the new Energy Research Lab as a scientist, engineer, or source, uh, excuse me, he's asking for people that are interested in the public to get involved, because their goal is to acquire and develop a zero-point energy system to release to open source freely to the public by 2026. It's a big goal, but he says that it already exists. It's just a matter of getting it into the hands of the public. So there's a few steps, meaning that we really need to demand it. The only way to make change is to find the change within yourself, right? I think that's probably what the seed of this expression is. So it's inspirational and motivational for people that want to get on board with this. But Dave, it is still pretty daunting, and you're not going to pry something like free energy potential loose from the grip of the government that they've been hiding it for so long. That's a really tough one. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I understand, Tim, that everything costs money. Okay. But this isn't a telethon. Okay. This is real life disclosure, if that's what we're talking about. And I don't want to dig into my pocket for disclosure. Disclosure shouldn't cost me $29.99 a month. And every month I get a letter from a resident alien stating how glad they are for my donation. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what it
Yeah.
sounds like it's turning out to be.
And
there's a lot
typically, not to interrupt you, but typically, historically, we have seen a lot of the requests for funding from Greer. So
yes. Stephen, how much are you putting in? We've seen your multi-million-dollar mansion and the acreage that goes along with it. Your $3,500 a CE5 lesson on a weekend where you gather 50, 100 people. Well, 3,500 times 100 is a lot of money. It's $350,000 for a weekend. You do that 10 times a year, Tim. It's a lot of money.
he's a doctor.
A lot of money.
He's a
Okay,
doctor.
so look, if Dr. Greer, and I don't know him or his connections that well, okay, so I'm going to be very careful with what I say. If Dr. Greer has the connections that he says he does, from businesses to CEOs to Congress people to military and everything, the money shouldn't be that hard to find. He shouldn't be Tom DeLonging it and going after people to buy shares in the fake UFO rocket that they're going to build to go into space. Yeah, I went there.
You're so naughty.
It was a good one, though. You have to admit that.
Yeah.
But there are so many different angles to the way this is going. Look, I want Greer to succeed. I want Elizondo to succeed. I want David Grush to succeed. I want everybody to succeed, as long as we are getting the proper answers, which is disclosure. And as much praise as Dr. Greer deserves for putting this together, because it's hard. It's not an easy task, Timmy. Okay. But for the amount of stuff that he put together, we're not talking disclosure for dollars here. This isn't a telethon. You're playing with 8 billion people's lives. 8 billion. It's not the UFO community. You're playing with every person on the planet, and the one that is born this second, and this second, and this second, and this second, and so on and so forth. You're playing with people's lives, man. And the idea that we are trying to push for funding is great. Okay, where's the GoFundMe? Where's the what do they call those startup things where you could put online and gain a bunch of money? People do it for movies and stuff all the time, and
Yeah,
small
don't use it.
crowdfunding
Yeah.
sites. There's all sorts of crowdfunding sites. All right. Maybe if Dr. Greer was a little bit less about the money and more about getting the message out, people would take him a lot more seriously. But for some reason, it always comes down to billions, and it has to funnel through him. That I don't buy. That I don't buy at all.
Yeah, and your chat, as always, has come up with a classic. I love the Jerry Lewis telethon reference. I totally see it. I totally get it. And there's a lot of Jerry Lewis in Dr. Stephen Greer. They're compatible. But all levity aside, I do feel like we need to focus on the goal, which is quote unquote disclosure. And if you're looking for disclosure from the government, this is definitely the way to go about it. And it was pretty clear that the plan is to, via the use of attorney Derek Garcia, use the RICO Act, which is the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, to instill a lawsuit, literally, against the USG, withholding information. And there was a very long list of strikes that they were going to hold the USG accountable for. I mean, from racketeering onwards, you name it, theft, grand larceny, murder, all of the really big, scary ones, right? That we know are probably potentially attached to this subject. And I'm smiling only because the list was so long. It was almost laughable. But it's really part of the program that he's putting together, and he's looking for a long list of lawyers in support of the lawyers he currently has that are all working pro bono towards the goal of putting together a case against our own USG for withholding technologies against our knowing and hiding it away, in amongst Raytheon and all of the other independent companies, but knowingly, I think, is the big strike. So that part of it I find very interesting, and I will be following, Dave, because they might get somewhere with that.
That's a lot of accusations. So when you start throwing out the murder card, and you start throwing out a lot of these heavy charges, whether it's racketeering, whether it's anything along those lines. I mean, dude, you are dealing with serious allegations,
and you need evidence.
And you need evidence, and you need hardcore evidence, not hearsay. Okay.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Dr. Greer has a habit of speaking up, talking very big and blustery and tough, but never following through on his accolades. and his words of choice. I mean, it's like sometimes it reminds me of a UFC fighter who talks a lot of trash but never steps into the octagon. Every now and again, you got to step into that octagon, and yes, you're going to get hit. No word of a lie, you're going to get hit. But if you're that confident and that good, you should be able to withstand the issue. And I don't know. I mean, I want to believe Dr. Greer. I do. I believe his eyewitness testimonies that were given. I totally believe them. Okay. But can he deliver? The only way to deliver this is by getting the, and I shouldn't say this with 2 minutes to go, Tim, because it's going to open up a can of worms. Okay. But the problem that the majority of these guys have, whether it's Greer, whether it's the To the Stars Academy, whether it's anybody, who's the first people that they push away? Their greatest supporters in ufology. Lou Elizondo told me the biggest mistake that the To the Stars Academy made when they came out was that they did not acknowledge or gain the support or want the support of the UFO public. They went against the grain. Dr. Greer goes against the grain. You literally have hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions, Tim, out there who have seen things. And some are more passionate than others. Why would you not want those people on your side? Why would you, instead of begging them to open their wallets, but we're not going to talk to you, we're not going to support you, we're not going on your podcast, we're not going on your YouTube channels, we're not doing anything. Just give us money, money, money. Okay? They've done nothing to support and everything to push away the UFO public. Okay? Now, some people have latched on. Other peoples have not. The majority have not. And I don't understand why all of these people want our money, but they don't want to give us what we want, and that's the support back. Tim, great UFO report tonight. Thank you so much, my man. You do a great job for us each and every time you are on, and it's so good to have be back on the air with you, my man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And, of course, all of you and our guest tonight, Dick Larson, for shooting on up and talking Maitreya and a little bit of aliens, because that's what we love to do around here. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, just yell, Timmy. Good night. Timmy.
Yeah.
Woo! Woo!
It's good to be back.
Oh, Fantastic. Fantastic times. There is like no wind outside. No
Weird.
wind.
Weird. You need to put an end to that. Make your waves, Davey.
Well, you're coming up here in a couple weeks.
I know. It's going to be great.
Guess where we're going? First thing.
Oh,
Hey, NSA guy. Hey, Tim. It's that time of the night where we say hello to all the agents and agencies hanging on out, listening to us, tuning us on in. Hey, you already have our phone numbers, so give us a call sometime. Let us know how you're doing and what you're up to. Remember, some of us can be bought. Some of us can be bought. All right. Thanks, NSA guy. We love you, man. Hope you're safe out there. Is random guy coming in?
I sent him El Linkaroo. Let's see what happens. He might have fallen asleep.
If NSA guy is here, that means random guy should be coming in pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's the other patch. That one is okay. All right, there we go.
Let's see. I guess I could text him and find out.
Yeah. He might be crying right now.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, he might be crying right now. Just saying.
Is it okay to swear? Not that I will, but if I play you this recording.
Well, let's wait for him so that way he can break it down if he shows up here.
There is profanity in it. There's always.
I don't mind the profanity. It's just a matter of trying.
He just came back from the scene where this took place. He's a UFO investigator now.
Well, he's got aliens himself.
Yeah, but he's actually actively investigating, it sounds like. I'm giving you the play-by-play.
Well, according to NSA guy, random guy almost got him abducted.
He says he can do voice.
That's fine.
He said, do it. Sweet. I've got an investigation coming up next weekend for U.S. right along the U.S. border up north, and then we'll go down the coastline searching out UFOs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Can't wait. And then I'm going to come and see you. Freeze. Well, what's it like at night there? Does it drop down pretty cold or?
Depends on the night. Like right now, it is smoking warm, dude.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
There's Random Gee. Random Gee, how you doing?
What up? I'm freaking exhausted, dude.
Any new tattoos?
Dude, what a crazy week. And then, yeah.
Yeah, for those of us that have been following you on Twitter, you are hilarious when you travel.
I try to be funny everywhere except for here. Here, I'm dead serious at all times.
Oh, man.
Obviously.
That's great.
So what's the word on the street?
Well, we're just playing the games here, man.
We rolled by that scene of that Vegas, whatever the hell it was. We didn't really see much, but there was some interesting things. I sent Tim a clip of a sound because we're walking around, like trying to stay in public property, not doing anything we're not supposed to be doing. But there's this, it's kind of like on the outskirts. And I'm like, is that coyotes? Is that cicadas? Like, what is that? We're like, dude, what the hell is that? So I sent Tim that because I'm a city boy. I don't know how to identify sounds of the environment or animals. So we were all tripping, and there was a bunch of dead animals. There's dead rabbits, dead birds, like just stuff all over the place. Again, it's on the outskirts, so there could be logical predators there causing all that. But it was definitely a strange. You could play it, Tim. Just don't show the video.
Copy that.
If you want. I don't care, because you could hear us giggling like schoolgirls. Shh. Nobody move. Listen. What the fuck is that sound? Is that a machine, an animal? I don't know. But it's weird because it's right next to the fucking house where the shit went down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what the hell that was. It was almost like a howling, but it was too high pitched. So I'm like, it's got to be some kind of a coyote or something, but I'd never heard anything like that. Listen.
Sorry.
What the fuck is that sound? Is that a machine, an animal? I don't know. But it's weird because it's right next to the fucking house where the shit went down.
Yeah. Like a high-pitched whining?
Yeah.
Above the crickets.
And here...
It sounds like bugs.
Really? That loud?
Yeah.
Dude, I have no idea. It's the desert, not the woods. And again, I'm the opposite of a nature person. So you tell me. Chat probably knows what it is.
Hey, little Terry Hall has showed up. Some are saying cicadas.
So there's one other tidbit. When we would shut up, it would stop. So like when we're walking around, it would start making a sound. And then if we were like not present, the sound would stop being present. If that makes any sense. So whatever animal or whatever and it seemed to be like omnipresent. I know it wasn't, but it was like the weirdest. That's why I'm thinking it couldn't have been like an animal. It had to be more like, if you're going to say bugs, I would go with that if there was like 1,000 of them doing it. But it was just a weird, surreal situation, because we're looking at dead birds, dead rabbits, like all kinds of things around these properties. And then of course, the property itself, there was nothing really unique about it. We didn't infiltrate or go over public lines or anything like that. But
and so again, this was the property in Vegas with the recent aliens in the headline.
Correct.
Sorry, Dave.
Allegedly, yeah.
Could be frogs.
Frogs that live in the desert with no water.
Lizards.
What time were you there? Just earlier?
About an hour ago. We left. Yeah, it was just odd, man. I don't know. And definitely they cleared out of the house. So I don't know if that was nobody move. Listen. A function of them not being bothered or what. What the fuck is that sound?
Was the sound all around you?
Is that a machine, an animal? I don't know. But it's weird because it's right next to the fucking house where the shit went down. Tim's just loving the F words. I can see it in his face.
I don't have to say it.
No, it's just it was everywhere. That's the thing. So it's like, oh, it's from across the street. So we literally walked across the street. We got like 20 minutes of videos. So like we walked across the street, and then when we get across the street, now it's coming from the other side of the street. Like wherever we went, you couldn't identify it. And if you stopped moving to listen so you can move closer, it would stop. It was just like the most annoying thing in the world.
Last night, there was another sighting over in Sebastian, Florida. There was a large light that showed up on the horizon that was in the shape of like a shield, or like a dreidel. Was described as, with red lights at the top and bottom. And then like dreidel, like a little Jewish spinning
A
top,
Jewish
I guess.
alien?
Well, like a shield shape, but like I guess. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Like a
But
family crest type thing.
yeah, but it wasn't flat. It was like a top.
Huh.
It was like a top. I mean,
How
if
about
you
an
know what a dreidel looks like, that's the description.
I definitely know what a dreidel looks like.
There you go. And that was seen at I think 11 p.m. just last night, and it just hung out in the sky, disappeared, and then reappeared, and then I'm not sure if it shot off or disappeared. I didn't get that part of it, but I'm looking into it, and there'll be more to come. There is a video available. Can drop a link. But yeah, it's happening. Aliens.
Yeah, your buddy there saw a defense drone, according to NoBS News.
Yeah, I don't trust anything that guy says.
It's all disinformation.
He's like a broke Steve Greer.
Oh, I love it. Is he lucky in the slots?
He's very underfunded.
I love it. But is he fun to gamble with? That's the question.
Not really. He's cheap.
You know,
I know
Tim, we
you.
need to
I
find
know
out for
you.
ourselves.
You guys probably have a hard time believing this, but I'm the crazy one in almost every group.
You know.
Shocker.
No.
The guy that shows up with way more gear than we'll ever need. You're always overly prepared. I love that.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
the
better to have
alternative.
something you don't need than to need something you don't have.
Exactly. That's why when I was traveling, there's only, I think, 5 states that I can't conceal carry in. And of course, I had to go to one of them. And I feel completely naked when I'm doing it.
I'll bet you did. Oh,
For
man.
real.
Your smile is enough ammunition. That's all you need. Just give him that smile.
Charm.
So, RG, since Dave's not asking, I'm going to ask the elephant in the room. Did you get a chance to catch any of the news over the past few days? I know your head's been in the clouds, but a
No,
lot
I've been
going on.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of the chats that, following things.
And you were on last night, obviously, with Dave.
Yeah.
You guys were breaking some grounds. And I got some new revelations that I didn't know before from your talk with Dave and Marquise last night, which is,
What's that?
well, I mean, there's all
Oh, I thought you meant something specific, like the fusion energy project and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's all good stuff.
You're
That is
dropping
great.
some bombs last night, man.
Yeah, you're
Well, no,
dropping
I
bombs.
literally, I'm like, so the person I was hanging out with, because you guys have no idea who it was, nobody, not a clue. This person just has like an orbit around them of crazy people that are hooked up with knowledge and connections. So just hanging out around certain people, I'm getting plugged in with other people, and I'm just like, wait, are we really talking about this? Are we really talking about that? And these are like credentialed people that know what they're talking about. It's like, all right, we're just going to casually talk about suppression of, future technology for the good of the military and the oil industry or whatever, and just openly discuss it. It's wild, man. There's this. And so if your baseline is that, and you come from the level of skeptic, of like, hey, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist and this and that. But then you get to the people, you're actually talking to nuclear physicists, you're talking to aerospace engineers, you're talking to the people that are experts in these fields that teach at universities. And they're just casually telling you how a lot of these conspiracies are true. And it's not even a big deal. They don't even shudder when they say it. And the world keeps spinning and no one really cares. Then you just look at the whole situation and like, oh, aliens probably are here. I don't know anymore. Like I give up because no one seems to care about these really important issues.
Yeah, you make a great point. New York Times finally does an article on the topic, and they totally miss all of the news and decide to focus on, does the government want you to believe in UFOs? That's the message that they get from what's going on right now.
Well, I felt that it was pretty ironic that coming for the last, I would say at least 2 or 3 months of, and it's political ideology based, a lot of it, so I won't go deep into it, but there has been a lot of mention of false flag alien invasions and stuff like that. If you subscribe to certain philosophies of mostly leaning political stuff of, we're going to deter the populace of this group, our political rivals, by doing such and such. And then all of a sudden, what gets, front row center. So it's almost like there was a preparatory command to discount all levels of the discourse that's been going on lately, whether it's NASA or Greer or whatever, Grush, whatever. It almost seems like there was a coordinated effort to get out in front of it and say, hey, this is coming. So now that the general public doesn't follow the details, but if they follow their political ideology and they're talking head and they said, hey, you're about to see false flags about UFOs, and then 2 months later, there's people talking about UFOs, what are you going to believe? Right? If that's what you subscribe to, you're going to say, this is what they warned us about. So I'm just going to turn my mind off and ignore it because it's all fake. And that's a massive disservice. But it seemed like it went out that way almost intentionally, like at a perfect timing to counter all of this. I won't call it disclosure, but further discourse in the topic, right? To say the least.
Yeah. What did you feel about the way Leslie Keane and Ralph Blumenthal released the information? And did you feel like Ross Coulthart was the right person to interview Charles Grush? And why do you think it was the debrief and this group?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty clear the debrief was not the first choice. The Times sat on it. The Washington Post sat on it. I think that's pretty clear from that's a pretty consensus thing from what I've seen at this point. So what are your options at that point? Do you want to wait 6 months? Do you want to wait for more heavy editing? Or do you just want to get it out? Right. I don't know if that's the right choice or not. But that's what we got.
Right.
Ross did a good job, I thought, from what I saw. I didn't watch every second of it, but it seemed to be, I don't know, professional. And the problem I'm having now is I don't know things. I have to ask people about this stuff. So I reached out to some of my contacts. People are still in the business, so to speak, right? 3-letter agencies, whatever. And people know people. I was surprised to find I knew 2 people that had at some point crossed paths with Grush that are currently working for the government. And both of them said pretty much verbatim the same thing. He's the real deal. He would have been there. He would have known. But I don't believe what he's doing right now is actually him. They think they don't know what it is, but they said it just doesn't make sense. But the man himself, the resume, the word, legit dude. But that they don't believe a thing that's going on right now with his quote whistleblowing. They think there's something fishy about it.
And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but was the person that verified that Grush was on the up and up with you the same person that gave you thumbs up on Lou Elizondo and him being a stand-up guy?
One of them, yeah.
And so for the part of retired Army Colonel Carl Nell, who came out to support David Grush, being the former intelligence official turned whistleblower, saying that he came out and gave complete support, saying that the evidence and conclusions being drawn are indisputable. We're still getting just more hearsay, but do you feel like the fact that these people are coming out to support him should kind of maybe bolster his evidence that he's bringing? Because this is evidence, right? Testimony is evidence. So is it helpful, or is it possibly hurtful for his case having these people coming out in such support? Like, why do we need it if what he's saying is true? And then my other part to this question is, if what he's saying is true, how is he able to talk about it? Why was the DOD releasing him to talk about some of these specifics?
Because I think, and this is me being me, just trying to read between the lines, if what I'm hearing is true about, as far as this, there's something fishy about it, and you say he's submitting evidence, but the evidence he's submitting is technically hearsay at this point, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, technically it is. So if he's presenting his evidence as hearsay and people are supporting it, and then they're able to, because none of those people are saying they're part of the story, right? They're just saying, yeah, go him. Like, he was there. He's the man. He knows what he's talking about. That kind of rah
supporting
support,
his
right?
character.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sorry about that. Unfortunately, it only takes one thread to unravel from any part of his testimony. And then the whole thing falls down and they go, oh, well, he was good when I knew him, or it was legit when I knew him, or what have you. And so I feel like if I'm being skeptical and I'm being conspiracy theorist, they want to maximize the legitimacy of his testimony so that when and if they're going to can it or discredit him or make him crash, it brings everything down. They say, look, we had the most decorated person, the most high up person, and we put all hands on deck. We had Congress involved in this, NASA involved with this. We gave him immunity with whistleblower protection. But guess what? We found out he lied about this, or this wasn't accurate, and we could prove it to you. Therefore, we're throwing it all out, and anybody else like him or less than him will never have a shot again to do it.
Right.
That's
right.
the conspiracy side, if you want to be pessimistic about it.
It's a great point. I mean, Gary Nolan came out and created quite a stir just before all of this, saying that there was definitely a presence here, 100%. And then, we had NASA coming out saying that we have no idea what's going on here, and these are the investigators of space. But when we hear Nolan coming out in such support of this topic without, again, any evidence, in support sometimes of like even the ancient aliens concept and things like that, we're hearing it trickle in even to some of the current whistleblower terminology. Do you feel like that will be the silver bullet in this whole push?
No, because unfortunately I was hyped about Greer's thing this weekend, and I feel like, I'm not going to say it fell flat, but and I haven't been through every second of it, but the highlights I got, I was like, oh, that's good. That's great. That's cool. Like, I'm listening, I'm hearing a lot of things I want. But then when I go back and I compare it to what he said last month about what he was going to present and leave no doubt, I'm like, where's that part? Maybe he did it and I missed it, but I heard project names, craft descriptions, like all this stuff's supposed to be like, I'm supposed to go online and be able to get this right now. And then I hear things like, you got to pay for this and you got to pay for that. And I'm like, dude, like, what are we
he
doing?
presented it all. That was all in his presentation. He flashed it all up on the screen, all the names, all the places.
Okay.
He actually did present all of it.
Perfect.
It was up there briefly, but it was up there in the beginning portion of his presentation.
So what action is being taken on that intelligence that he just disclosed?
Great question. So what the action he's doing is collecting a bunch of pro bono lawyers, and he's going after the programs.
To do the RICO thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, what's actually happening, like kinetically right now, not in a legal room. Like, who's going to check these hangars? Who's going to check the buildings he talked about? Like, that kind of stuff.
Right. So there was also a discussion that took place with Congress, and supposedly Arrow has this information. So if there is any follow-up, Arrow is the one that at this point needs to be pressured to do the follow-up, because now we know they have the information. That's a great question you just brought up.
Arrow, the ones that everybody there don't even have all the clearances to do this work.
Sean Kirkpatrick. Yes. Great point. Yeah, because he's cleared sense. At level 10, and they've been debriefed already, according to the discussion today that Greer made, that all of the information presented publicly, and there was also a confidential portion that was
it prior
presented.
to the NASA meeting?
I don't know, but I don't think so. I think it was all like in between, like probably current. I'm guessing, so I shouldn't say. And
I'm not trying to pester you if you don't.
No, that's great. I don't know that answer, but that's
I'm
a
trying to
good
get
question.
a line of thinking here of our timeline, because when obviously Kirkpatrick was there at the NASA thing, he was there at the congressional inquiry. So if he's been sitting on this and they still keep coming out and saying we have absolutely no evidence of otherworldly craft in this and or whatever his statement was, I'm not saying it verbatim, but he was out there saying we're worried about threats, we're worried about UAP, that 3 to 5%. We're not concerned about anything that's off world. We have no evidence. That was pretty much what I heard over and over again.
Yeah.
So
and
if Greer had provided this information prior to that,
that would
then
be
he
a
was
problem.
lying.
Yeah. And also, Sean Kirkpatrick was deathly silent when the panel members were asking for a good description of what the anomalies were that they were looking for. He broke in earlier and brought more information, but when they were like, what is exactly we're doing here? Silence, which was frustrating. But anyways, please continue with the current events, because I'm loving what you're bringing.
No, I just look at things differently. Like that's
Yeah.
I'm not chill about it. I'm impatient and I'm uneducated. And so like when I see a loose thread, I'm like, I'm gonna pull it. I'm pushing the red button. I'm doing all those things because I'm like, let's get this done.
Right. And so you're looking for actionable things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
I
and
100%.
and intelligently actionable, not just, well, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna sit down with the lawyers for 18 months and pay, we'll keep you funded, just, go to my GoFundMe or buy my Patreon or whatever. And that's all fine and dandy, but that's not, again, I want to see kinetic movement with the government of what they're doing, even if it's bad, even if they're like, hey, all right, we're going to move stuff or hide stuff. Like, I want to see them doing something. I want to see them arrest people.
Right.
And I don't want to see them arrest people because I want something bad to happen to whistleblowers. But that is a physical action. I want to see action because that will force the standoff, whether it's in the courts, the public eye, the media. You can't start putting handcuffs on people and expecting to not have recourse for that. But this just complete inaction is like the worst possible scenario to me.
Right. And we were promised more coming from the same group that brought us David Grush, and potentially even more coming very soon on David Grush. And so I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you. I mean, I don't think he's been on Weaponized right yet. I'm sure
Tonight.
that'll come at some point.
I'm sure it'll be tonight. And obviously, in an essay for Politico entitled, If the Government Has UFO Crash Materials, It's Time to Reveal Them. That seems like the cry that we really need to follow because, at this point, that's a pretty bold statement. That's what this whole whistleblower came out on, that headline. So that seems like that is extremely actionable at this point. I would say that is probably, the looking for recovered off-world craft would be a massive target to go after at this point.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to do something that's physical. We need something physical to happen. That's where I'm at. I don't know how we make that happen. Like I said, I'm just learning this stuff. And the more I learn about it, the more questions I have. But the one thing that becomes certain is that we can't do nothing, or else it's just a waste of time.
Well, before we move on, I wanted to just very quickly consider Eric Hecker, the Raytheon contractor from the South Pole. In particular, this guy was interesting because he was, amongst some of his other jobs, he was the fire expert. And so he had access to the South Pole station every single inch of that area. And so if anyone was going to know about this, it would be this guy. And he talks about a neutrino light array that is buried in ice shafts, and it's actually responsible for an earthquake that took place in New Zealand. Now, that seems like something that there would be a footprint for, that there would be data from, that potentially, at least that would prove that there is technology being completely unreported on and not disclosed and not talked about in the public purview. So potentially that would be something that could be actionable. And now that's in the public light.
Do you know the operating area name where that guy was at?
began with a M.
McMurdo?
That's it.
I have 2 friends there right now. So what do you want to know?
What I would like to know is there currently a neutrino light array buried in ice shafts out there that are used? And some of this is what we may have seen, like supposedly these massive green lasers going out into space that are traveling faster than light information, both generating and receiving. And when it's turned on, it can also be used as a destructive tool. And my understanding is that it can create earthquakes if it's aimed a certain way.
A laser?
Yeah.
Photon beams?
Well, it's called a neutrino light array.
Okay. I don't know about this. That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
But I will ask for you.
Sure.
I can, and I know you're like, okay.
Well, it's supposedly a
random,
program that was discontinued in the 80s. But when he went out there, it was absolutely active. And the reason that he brought it to light is that this was also operating on an undetectable energy source. At one point, it had been nuclear, and that had been stopped because there had been a treaty at some point that nothing nuclear could go on there. So this thing is operating under massive energy without its source being very revealed. So they're thinking that it's operating on an alternate energy source.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look this up because I thought neutrinos like pass through everything. I didn't realize they were part. I don't know how they could be used in lighting. I guess I'm a little confused, but I'll read up on it. So next time I'll have a better answer for you. But I'll ask around. Most people I know have only been there for 10 to 15 years.
Yeah,
so
and also listen to his testimony. He's the last witness in Greer's presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Hacker. So
got it.
Raytheon contractor. And so it does look like, we're starting to see some people coming from Raytheon and speaking out. And, it's so compartmentalized that you're hearing from one person, just one program. But Raytheon, by the sound of it, has all of these a lot of programs, and we've never heard a whisper about it. So who knows?
Battelle as well.
Well, it just depends. So there's only so many contractors that are cleared, on some of these SCI programs. So a lot of them will take over extra stuff because just the amount of money and vetting that a company has to put up and the government has to put up to bring on a contractor at some of these levels, it's in the millions and millions, if not billions of dollars. So if they got somebody who can already do the job and they already have security managers to hire the people and the trained staff to do so, they'd rather use an existing company. I don't think it's necessarily, because I've seen prominent defense contractors that have literally plumbers, at certain situations,
right?
Because they just already have the apparatus in place to hire, vet, get the clearance, and all that stuff, and interface with the government. They don't have to create it from the ground up when there's a new assignment or job code.
After hearing some of the whistleblowers briefly, some of the stories that they had, they're pretty dark. And some of the technology that's attached to it is being used for some pretty dark purposes. Do you think that this is the reason that we've gone so quiet on this topic for so long, because of the nefarious uses of these technologies?
When you say nefarious, I don't know if you mean like us using them for military purposes and clandestine state secret stuff, because I don't look at that as nefarious. Or do you mean nefarious as being used against U.S. citizens by U.S. government and or contractors?
Well, yeah, and also the claims that in some cases they were using it to smuggle humans or drugs, or the technology is being used to create earthquakes in our competitors' countries.
We're not referring to the UFO drug submarine. If you will.
I mean, you get what I mean. Like, is that the reason that this has been, and even Lou Elizondo said that this is a pretty dark topic. Is it because of some of these secret programs being kind of ugly, or what
I
is
mean,
the
there's got to
assumption to
be.
be made?
I think it's all about perspective. Is there a greater good that you believe in? Is it okay to test on mice for cosmetics? Is it okay if a few dozen people die to save many? I think it's an ethical and perspective question more than anything when we say nefarious, because if you don't have the full, and I'm not excusing any of it, I'm just saying hypothetically, it's hard for me to believe that programs and or people or organizations within our government would just intentionally harm people for absolutely no reason but shits and giggles, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. There has to be a greater good for it. I don't think
Right.
that kind of evil would be pervasive enough that you could convince a group, because I don't care how smart you are, it takes a group of people, whether it's Manhattan Project or reverse engineering or whatever you're working on. There's no one individual in control of these things. So therefore, a group of people have at least a general knowledge of who might be being harmed. And it's hard for me to believe that those people will be like, you know what, let's abduct citizens or let's give people cancer or whatever it is. And so I don't know. I would need more perspective on the entire situation rather than somebody saying, oh, okay, these are bad. We've done bad things. We know the government's done bad things. But most of the time it's because they were stupid, not because they intended to do bad things.
So there's a really cool, and I'm going to tip over to Dave after this. This is kind of my last thing. The Gatestone Institute put together a little one sheet here, and I'm just going to read off of it briefly, and then I'll toss my hat in the ring and be done. But they say here that given the obvious coordination of the UAP disclosures these last few weeks, there's only two scenarios that seem plausible. One, either a group of scientists, intelligence operatives, military personnel, legal sharks, and politicians are working together behind the scenes to deliver enough corroborated information to the public to pierce through a near century of state-imposed secrecy. Or the second option, this diverse collection of professionals is part of an elaborate disinformation campaign being used to manipulate the public perception and an opinion. What do you think? Is it one of those two, or are there other options?
Yes, me or Dave?
Really, either of you or both?
Dave's playing Minesweep. No, I don't think. I think there could be multiple options. Go ahead, Dave. I want to hear your voice.
Well, it started back in 1996 when I went to broadcasting school. That's how I got this.
And he got hooked on Minesweep.
Oh, now I forgot. Tim, fill me in.
I'm going to save you because we're talking about, we're wondering, since we see that there's potentially a coordination of the UAP disclosures that we're seeing over the last few weeks, feels like there's two scenarios possible. One is that it's a collection of professionals in an elaborate disinformation campaign to manipulate public perception, or it's a group of scientists and intelligence, military, legal, and politician people working together behind the scenes to deliver enough corroborated information to the public to pierce through a near century of state-imposed secrecy. So either we're trying to get the truth with all of this work, or it's disinformation from that same group.
I think it could go both ways. That's how unstable this is right now. I think the U.S. government, maybe not so much the government, but the military for sure, wants to get this swept back under the rug and will do anything necessary to do that. We're causing them a lot of issues and a lot of unwanted press and a lot of people being nosy at what we're calling alien but could be ours. I think Random Guy would agree with that.
100%. The third option is really probably the most likely option. It probably is a combination of both. It's probably compartmentalized to the point where certain people are acting on behalf of ill intentions and others have true intentions. And it could be even within the same organization at times. Could be inside an Arrow, could be inside the Pentagon. It could be, pick an organization. And there might be some people that disagree, but they capitulate and go with the program because it's for either the greater good or because they don't have a choice, leveraged somehow, or they just don't care. So the potential is there for all the options. In the end, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is getting accurate information, taking stuff off the board, crossing things off the list, and moving forward what's still on the list, that 3 to 5%, whatever it is. If we can identify stuff, let's get rid of it. If we know somebody's full of it, let's get rid of them. Like, not actually get rid of them, but disregard their testimony in that case. And it's painstaking and it's annoying. And I want action.
Yeah. My question is, though, just leaning on the disinformation a little bit more. We know that all countries use propaganda in one way or another to strike a little fear in our opponents. Wouldn't it be perfect for us to have this other technology that even we aren't talking about because it's so potentially awesome? Wouldn't that be like the greatest thing right now, for the United States to just kind of be sort of quietly disclosing? I mean, if our enemies got wind of that, they'd start biting their nails. Do you feel like maybe it's propaganda? I hate to say it, but
That's what we've done. I know. I mean, there's stories, there's books, there's tons of psyops out there, man. It's
and the
worked
timing,
throughout
right?
history.
The timing.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately at our level, it's just regular civilians hanging out. We just got to go with our gut, what we want to believe, like whatever your ideology is and what your logic tells you, because everybody's got an opinion. But even with all these presentations and breaking news and people coming forward, we still really don't know until we see it. That's why I want to see kinetic. I want to see motion. I want to see movement. I want to see people doing stuff, not talking about it.
And Random Guy brings up a good point there, guys, where he's saying enough talking. Okay, enough of the Greers, enough of the Grushes. Okay, we're tired of skirting around the issue. If we're going to deal with this issue, let's deal with it head on, which is what disclosure is, dealing with this head on, rather than the bullshit that we have been served for the last 20 years, where everybody's got solutions, whether it's dialing for dollars or whether it's, I've got a secret, but I can't tell you. And I think that's where the movement ends. It's like, it reminds me of the underpants gnomes on South Park, man, where at first it was, they had step 1, they had step 3, but there was no step 2 in order to get the underpants. Right? And that's exactly what we're seeing with this entire process. Everybody knows what the finish line is. Everybody knows where to begin. And that's why I said, Tim, like right at the end when you and I ended the show, okay, all of these groups have one thing in common. One thing. And that is they have all worked against their biggest supporters and contributors, which is ufology. You look, everybody has gone rogue on this. Galileo Project, rogue. Enigma Labs, rogue. To the Stars Academy, rogue. Dr. Greer, majority of rogueness. Okay, he does have some ufology involved. I'll give him credit for that. Okay, the SCU, rogue. All of these new groups that are coming out, the Pilots Federation, okay, rogue. Why don't they want anything to do with ufology?
You know why?
It's because of the stigma.
Bingo.
Okay. But the problem is when you cut off your biggest supporters, you don't go anywhere. It's like a governmental party running for office and trying to win without any votes.
Yeah, but you can't be taken seriously running up to Washington with a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing people running after you, unfortunately. And
Am
it
I?
seems,
Okay.
I'm just saying, because those are the people that tend
know.
to come out and support in ufology. I'm just saying, from
It's
somebody
not just
standing on the
ufology,
outside
pretty
looking
much
in.
everything, politics included. The craziest, most obnoxious people are the ones that we always see
Right.
in everything.
Right. Right.
Doesn't matter, Tim. You still need the support. You need a supporting cast. And until all of these rogue groups stop trying to individualize themselves, they're never getting anywhere. Lou Elizondo, once again, I will repeat, Lou Elizondo stated to me the biggest mistake the TTSA made was stepping outside of ufology and not going after that support. They wanted the money. They didn't want the support.
Kind of like Rich Hoffman.
Ourselves.
Kind of like Rich Hoffman from SCU on your show stated that they're not interested in the individual's reports, but they want the reports, but they're not interested in the person's experience or the person. It's kind of the same thing.
Absolutely. So, and I'm not saying march like a million person march of tinfoil hats into Washington, D.C. There's a lot of credible people there. Okay. There's a lot of credible witnesses. Do you think Travis Walton jumps on a pedestal to tell his story? No, the reason why Travis Walton speaks his story is because people pay him to hear it at conferences. Okay. What about Kevin Day? Is he tinfoil? Okay. What about, there's a lot of people. Okay. Let's take people from our chat room. I'm just reading off some names. Is Nicole tinfoil? No. She's a brilliant researcher. What about Louie and Jason from UAP Studies, or Marquise or Grant? Tim, even yourself with your story. Are you tinfoil? You're not tinfoil.
I mean, I
That's what I'm saying.
I might be to other people's consideration, just the fact that I consider it, right? Just to let you know. And people consider Gary Nolan to be a little bit extreme, but we know that he's a genius. And so you have to understand it's the perception of the group. By no means do I think that ufologists or people that look into this or have an experience are tinfoil wearing kooks. No. But the fact is it's the public perception. That's why people are disconnecting from the.
Yeah. I understand that, but you still don't shoot your own supporters
right
in the foot.
You're right.
Elizondo stated that.
Okay. At the same time, he did state that he wanted to tear down ufology, though. What do you think he meant by that, then?
Well, he wants to get rid of the bad apples. Okay, the Green Streets, the Goofons, the Cambians, and people who have alternative opinions. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's right at all. But that's what he wants. Right?
Right. And UFO Twitter is a playground for this topic.
It's a
and it seems where a lot of scores are settled. You know, things tend to get torn up, and if they surface out of there, then it's potentially a real topic, at least. So I think the social media aspect is intriguing, to be quite honest. And it does seem to float out something real once in a while. So I don't agree with Elizondo that we need to tear down ufology. I think that there's quite a lot to be learned there, personally.
I think that was bred out of frustration, to be blunt. Okay. I think it was bred out of frustration.
Yeah, and I love the guy, and I support everything that people that are in this topic do. But every once in a while, I'm confused by things that they say or do. So that would have been one of them, because I feel like we need to understand what we're looking at. And we got that from NASA. The people that they chose were just flailing publicly because they were so ill-informed. all they needed was 10 minutes with Grant Cameron.
Yeah. Agreed. Gentlemen, on that note, we're going to shut her down.
Cool.
Because some of us have to work in the morning.
Thanks for staying up later. It's been fun.
It has been.
I got my 2 hours back.
Always
RG, you rock, dude.
I want to say a big thank you to Cat Chaser, Louis ×3, Flash Forward, Mennonite Abe, Obi Flett, Baba, Christine, Charles, Thomas, Derek ×2, Shaq, Sasquatch, Justin, Catherine, Love, and Deb for the super chats. Timmy, give me that whole button thing that you do.
You guys have fun. I'll see you later.
As for me, I'm going to tell you tomorrow night, Sheila Price Brooks is here. We're talking sleep paralysis and spiritual encounters. Tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio, we're talking to her. She's way in Jamaica. This is going to be awesome. Can't wait. Don't forget to support us by shopping at our store. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and don't forget to leave a comment after the show. Much love to you all. Thank you for show number 1 here tonight. I love you all. Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.